Hey, everyone, at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, perfect.
We'll begin with a moment of reflection and respect. Thank you. Next, item 3, confirmation of the agenda.
The council adopts the agenda for the meeting of April 17th, 2024.
Mover and seconder, moved by Deputy Mayor Barber and Councillor Chapman. All those in favor? It's carried. I remind you to declare a pecuniary interest or conflict of interest. Item 5, delegations and public meetings. We begin with Mr. Robert J. Swayze, the Town of Elmer Integrity Commissioner, who will be presenting regarding the Integrity Commissioner Services and the Code of Conduct. Welcome, Mr. Swayze. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
You can hear me?
Yes?
Okay.
Anyone hear you? Okay.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. My presentation will take you through 4 things. Firstly, my approach to various ethical rules in codes of conduct. Secondly, the general principles or the non-rules. These are the motherhood statements in your code of conduct, and I treat them a little differently. When and how I conduct an investigation or a complaint under the procedural sections of the code. And lastly, I'll deal with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I'm going to include, this presentation will include many examples of actual investigations I've carried out. I won't use names because some of the information is confidential, but I hope you think they are very interesting, some of them. Hopefully, you'll be satisfied at the end that having a code of conduct and an integrity commissioner will not in any way interfere with doing your job as a counselor. My talk will be about an hour, and asking questions at any time is okay. I don't mind being interrupted. Will not interfere with my workshop. If it could, I have gone to an hour and a half. If there's a lot of questions and comments, and I support that, and I hope you will be involve yourself in this presentation. Now, firstly, I get asked many times, how can I possibly serve as Integrity Commissioner for 24 municipalities? I've had a lot more. I've had 40. I've had over 40 at one time. And the level of my activity is low. That's not guaranteed, and you never know where. Like for example, my most active clients were Mississauga in 2016, and then Wasaga Beach in 2017, then Prince Edward County in 2018, and Greater Sudbury in 2019, and then Espanola in 2020. So it doesn't matter how big the municipality is, but believe me, you want to keep the level down if you can. You will learn that if the Integrity Commissioner doesn't show up, it's a good thing. There was a quote a number of years ago from a mayor in Western Ontario who said, "I hear this Mr. Swayze is a great guy. I hope I never meet him." And that's the attitude of that everybody takes. So it's good if I don't show up. Now, I respond only to complaints or direction from council to investigate things. I don't patrol, I don't read your local newspapers, so I have to start from scratch when I receive a request to investigate. And then before we get into the slides, let me say something positive. I have the greatest of respect for those who serve on council, giving back to the community, serving with a low salary. I always say to people who criticize councilors, imagine giving your phone number to several thousand people and saying, call me if you have a problem. It's not something that everybody would want. Most councils regard a code of conduct as a good thing. I can also say that my clients, almost all of them, have regarded my decisions as being fair, reasonable, and I try to use common sense. And not everybody, if you see the slide, the caricature of me, that was a lady who was part of a group led by a counselor who I imposed some sanctions, I recommended some sanctions against. And this is me breaking glass and sweeping it up. It's not sweeping up evil, as I try to portray it. I enforce only by recommendations to council, but have the power to take a breach of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act to court. I can do that on my own without reference to council, except the requirement to notify council. So though I have no original decision power and essentially only recommend sanctions to council or present a case to court. Now, I always start with the most common mistake made by members of council. The fundamental concept is council is all powerful, but individual members of council have only one vote, and that includes the mayor. So I've had some new councilors say to me, wait a minute, I was elected by my constituents to make this change, and I don't agree with what staff is doing. Staff don't represent the people like I do. Well, don't have that attitude, please. Staff, when you approach staff, they're going to be cooperative with you, they're going to be polite, and they're probably going to say, why don't I write a report to council to make that change? And then, of course, their report trashes your idea and you're not happy. Well, don't be unhappy, because you don't manage or run the municipality. You are a member of the most powerful body, but you only have one vote, and that's your only power. Now, so use your energy to persuade a majority of council that you are right. Don't start yelling at staff or causing problems like that. Now, I have to caution you in your persuasion of members. Be careful of the closed meeting rules. And I just had a session with a mayor and a council just yesterday and today, dealing with this it's a bit complicated, this issue, because you are encouraged. You're encouraged to speak to all members of council, talk to them as much as possible, but you can't meet with them in any form of meeting where there's a quorum present. I guess your quorum is 3. And so if you meet with more than 3 councilors, you can't talk business. That's the rule. That's the rule in closed meeting rules. There has been some changes to that, so some court action. So when you go out for dinner or when you have a meeting with all of council, don't talk business, because you'll be dealing with business. However, one case found that you send an email to all members of council, and everybody, or many of them, reply all. So one court found that as a virtual meeting. So you have to be careful of that. You can't be, the case I was dealing with today was a counselor went to the clerk and said, here's a motion that I want to pass. And I've sent it to all members of council for their comment. No, yeah, he did send it to all members of council for their comments. And the clerk said, no, you can't do that. That's you know, you're risking having yourself accused of breaking the closed meeting rules. Now, that's the one risk, but there's other ones. Some clerks have misinterpreted the closed meeting rules to say that you can't talk to a quorum of council. Meaning, if you talk to each councillor individually, you can only talk to two, which is wrong. You're encouraged to talk to all members of council. It's only if you're in a meeting with a quorum present that you're not allowed to talk business. Any questions about that? Feel free to ask questions, interrupt me and ask questions at any time. Okay?
Sorry. You had a question? Jamie, go ahead.
For you, Your Worship. So just to clarify it, you can send an email to all council in one email, or do you have to send it separately to them?
Well, you shouldn't be sending it even separately to them, quite frankly. You should actually talk to them on the phone individually or meet with them, one or two of them. It's a little risky if you send the same email to every member of council, whether you send it individually or not, because you don't want to have replies and be called a virtual meeting. So talk to the council, meet with council, so long as you don't meet with a quorum, and call them on the phone, etc. There's no problem with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, a municipality is a complicated corporation to run, and it is important that it be managed by professionals with experience. They are hired based on that experience and education. The fact that you were elected does not give you qualifications to manage. There is a difference between management and governance. You're involved in governance, and you need a majority of council to order staff around. And more of this when we get to staff relations and the code, when we get to the rules. Slide 2, I see I have it up here. This is a quote from a report I wrote to a municipality, which will remain nameless, which was just in a mess, and I mean a real mess, because the mayor thought he was God almost. He kept calling himself the CEO. And you are the CEO in the municipal act, but the definition of a CEO is not like a corporate CEO, which everybody reports to. It's not like that at all. This mayor referred to himself as a CEO. In every other municipality, staff have a meeting to finalize the agenda for council meetings and then circulate to all members of council at the same time. This mayor was completely in charge, directing staff without reference to council. Had a meeting alone with CAO on every council agenda, calling in staff to change reports before they reached all members of council, personally doing all labor negotiations. And I mean, it was really incredible. And he knew it all. It was even worse. If any staff member crossed him, he would punish them in various ways. He ruled by fear, allegations of police influence. You might find a patrol car watching your house. So, I mean, that was an extreme example that I just wanted to give you the example of. And I'm going to give you another example of another case I had from a different side of the power of a municipality, of council, a majority of council. A member of council, a client of mine, had some HR experience and sat down with two other councillors. They decided there are 6 staff positions that are surplus to the needs of the municipality. 2 of these positions were filled and 4 vacant. The 3 asked for a closed session and persuaded council that the positions should be eliminated and 2 persons fired. The CAO had no notice of this, and he asked for an opportunity to look into it and wrote a report for the next meeting, and the report disagreed, so they fired him too. Now firing the CAO is, happens. It's not too bad, but except that they had no intention to replace it. I actually had a complaint about no CAO from a ratepayer, and I accepted it. But you'll see how the limitation of my power as I go on. I investigated and found that the staff were doing their best to have meetings without a leader and achieve consensus. This troubled me greatly. Every business group needs a leader. But how do I go against a majority of council? I report to council. Also, the Municipal Act requires a clerk and treasurer, but not a CAO. I also took this to Municipal Integrity Commissioners Organization, which I'm a member of, without naming the municipality. And we all agreed that I could do nothing. And I dismissed the complaint because it's not something that's against the Code of Conduct, and it's not something that's against the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Now, I had a later workshop with council and told them that if any member of council had tried to chair staff meetings or even attend them, I would have come down on that member under the Code of Conduct. So that's another example of the other side of power. Now let's go to slide 3. So my roles and responsibilities as Integrity Commissioner are. This slide talks about all of the complications involving a municipality, the criminal code, the municipal code. Now, if I get a complaint that is contrary to the criminal code or not within my jurisdiction, then I can dismiss it summarily, which I do with like a 5-minute email. Now, the most important. So slide 3 as well. This is slide 3. I need slide 4. That's why I got confused. Okay, so the roles and responsibility of a member of council are complicated. You can ask staff for advice. They are the experts, but they might have a conflict in advising you. Certainly under the Municipal Freedom of Information Act or the Municipal Elections Act, they can advise, but not under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I mean, they can give you some off-the-top advice there, but they have a conflict because, and some parts of the Municipal Act as well, that they won't want to give you advice. One advantage of having an Integrity Commissioner is you can ask me advice anytime. I am the best advisor on the Code of Conduct. All requests must be in writing, and you will find me very responsive to your emails. You can call me, but because of the new legislation, I will always ask for an email before advising you. So I do need something in writing. I mean, I'm happy to give you advice on the phone, but I tell you, don't take it as official advice until you have something in writing. Now, slide 4. This is principles versus rules. The public expects the highest moral and ethical standards of conduct from members, and it elects the behavior and action of members is expected to reflect the principles of accountability, transparency, and public trust. Adherence to these standards will protect and maintain the city's reputation and integrity. Next slide, there's some more. Key statements, decision-making process of accounts is open and accessible. Office is not to be used for personal, financial, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, these are general principles that are key. I mean, you have to have them in the Code of Conduct. It's what it's all about. But they're not specific rules. And I think I have maybe shared this case with council earlier, but there was a case in Toronto in 2005, where the Integrity Commissioner asked for a legal opinion. And if you could give me the next slide, I'll read it for you. I have. Anyway, statements of principles in the Code of Conduct do not provide an independent or standalone set of obligations, the alleged violation of which can be the proper subject of an investigation by the Integrity Commissioner. So I enforce rules, but I don't go further into general principles. And I'll give you some examples of cases that I found didn't include a rule. In the early days of being an Integrity Commissioner, you look at counselors who don't return phone calls, all right? You say to yourself, oh, you read the principles, you say, well, that's not being favoring your constituents, and you don't return phone calls, that's contrary to the Code of Conduct. Well, there are people who call counselors that they'll talk to them once, but they are so nasty that I don't blame them for not calling them back. And when I get a complaint like that, I quote this legal case and I say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to find against that counselor. And there's another one. Now, of course, all of these things that many counselors do have an impact at the next election, needless to say. People don't vote for people who don't return calls, I'm sure. The second example is a lady went to an AMO conference in Niagara Falls, and she brought her husband. She was the chair of a committee in a particular area where they had the minister of the province there speaking. She didn't go to that session, and she really didn't. And I had proof that she didn't do all these things, but that's not something that I can deal with. It's something that the electorate can deal with. The bottom line is some things you have to leave to the electorate. So I don't want to get into too many of these general principles. I mean, who am I to tell you how to be a politician? You need to break specific rules in the code before I investigate. Now, let me just deal with next local boards. I was surprised that when Bill 68, which is quite a few years ago, required all municipalities to have codes which apply to local boards. Volunteering is important to municipality, and the code might be regarded as exposure to embarrassment. As an example, in Mississauga, I was asked to prepare a separate code for local boards. It was a very complicated exercise. I spent a year doing it and training the members of the local boards. I came up with 2 extra codes, one for advisory committees and one for adjudicated or quasi-judicial local boards like the Committee of Adjustment, et cetera. In my 6 years at Mississauga, I never had one complaint. So I don't think that anything should be done, especially for committee member. Now, could I have slide 7? So that's 7. This code applies to every member. The code should be applied to all members of local boards who are not members of council, with necessary modifications applied in the discretion of the Integrity Commissioner. So I've included that clause in the codes that I draft as a way around it. In other words, I can consider modifications which will exempt a committee member. Okay, that's number 7. No. Okay, now I'm going to take you through the rules that are contained in codes which I enforce. The slides I will use may be from your code, or at least will be similar. I will also give you examples over the past 12 years of decisions I've made, and I hope you will agree that I've been fair and reasonable. So slide 8, please. Okay, so rule one, disclosure of confidential information. Oh, I guess the key word is if it does not apply to your duties as a counselor. I mean, that's very critical for ensuring that you do not disclose confidential information. If you go into a closed meeting, it's very important that you know that what you say will not be repeated by somebody to somebody not in the room. Absolutely critical. Real estate acquisitions, lawsuits, firing staff, all of these things need to be considered in closed session, and it has to be a real closed session. And I've had some terrible disclosures. I had one person wrote a confidential email to council saying, we have this event every summer. It's an event in Western Ontario where all the bikers go. And it's just thousands of bikers turn up in this city and town. And he said to the council, can't we have something more family oriented rather than having bikers here? Of course, that was leaked to the bikers. And this was a real estate agent who lost all her listings because the bikers visited every one of her listings and said, don't list with this real estate agent. And it was devastating. And but there's nothing I could do about it because it wasn't I had no complaint. Okay, now let's have 9. Slide 9 is, and here's some more. Release or publish by any means, including social media, any confidential information acquired by virtue of his or her office. Use confidential information for personal or private gain or benefit. So these are the things that you can't use confidential information for. And I get pretty serious about when people disclose things. And it's not necessary for a complainant to prove that the counselor gained private advantage from the disclosure. Any disclosure is wrong. So unless it could be approved by council, a disclosure that you want to make, you could go to council in camera and say, I want to disclose this, and the council would rule. Another aspect is that you are entitled only to the information relevant to your duties. Staff, that's the key word. Staff may refuse to give you both confidential and personal information if it has nothing to do with your duties. So that's rule 1. Any questions? I'd love to have people involved in this. Okay. Rule 2, which is slide 10, I believe. Undue use of influence. No member shall use their influence as a member of council to improperly influence the actions or decisions of staff or others to the private advantage of the member, of his or her family, employees, or business associates. So, obviously, it's your job to use your influence for your constituents. However, of course, not for your personal advantage. This rule used to contain the word friends until one counselor in a small town told me that almost all of his constituents are his friends. He found the section to be confusing, so I changed it. But I still may find fault if the friend is very close. I had a lifelong two friends. One was a real estate developer, and the other was a member of council. And I found that, there was a property that was partially built, and then the staff was trying to get it to be knocked down because it was there for a couple of years. And so the staff were very upset about this because this counselor continually supported his friend. It seemed inappropriate. I did recommend a sanction on that one. Rule number 3 is slide 11, I think. Staff relations. All right, so this gets a little bit complicated because to be a good counselor, you have to have a good relationship with staff. You have to support them, and some municipalities work so well you wouldn't believe it how staff and councilors get along. So I'll read this. Only council as a whole and no single member, including the mayor, has the authority to direct employees, approve budgets, policy, and other such matters unless specifically authorized by council. No member shall maliciously or falsely impugn the professional or ethical reputation of any staff, compel staff to engage in partisan political activities, or subject staff to threat or discrimination for refusing to engage in such activities. Or use their authority, excuse me, use their authority or influence to threaten, intimidate, or coerce staff or improperly interfere with the lawful exercise of the duties of staff. So, as discussed earlier, on your own, you have no authority over staff. Any direction to staff must come from council. That does not mean that you cannot meet with staff, ask for information, discuss issues within the town. They will be very cooperative. You could also be critical of staff, but do it behind closed doors and at a supervisory level at least. Don't yell at the crossing guard. Some councils have required counselors to only deal with the CAO in staff matters. Now that isn't the rule that's out there very extensively, but some municipalities have done that just to ensure that staff relations are maintained. In open meetings, you can disagree with staff and ask questions, but try not to be critical of their professionalism. If you're not satisfied by the supervisor or the CAO, you can also request a closed session to discuss with staff members' performance. I had a complaint in Guelph where two very close together single-family homes, but a man lived in one and a woman lived in the other. And the woman thought that this man had kind of a wild party one night and made too much noise. So she called the municipality. And it got her into so much trouble you would not believe. First of all, noise complaints are tough. I don't deal with them, and I don't even want to talk about them because they're hard to prove. But what this person who received, the staff went to this guy's house and said, "Are you making noise?" And he said, "I didn't make any noise. I had a party, but it wasn't noisy." And then he knew about real estate. He was an expert in certain things dealing with real estate. And he had a survey that showed the lady's front porch encroached on a road allowance. And she also had a setback from the side yard which was not large enough. He knew that. So he went back to the municipality and returned the favor and said, she needs an encroachment agreement. She needs to go to the Committee of Adjustment to take care of the minor variance on the side yard. And she ended up spending thousands of dollars. And she came to me and I said, hey, you know, this is what happens. And he was perfectly entitled to do that. So my strong advice to everybody, and including clients before I was an integrity commissioner, is don't have a fight with your neighbor. I mean, there's nothing worse than coming home every day and looking next door and grimacing with the hatred. Don't ever do it. So that's what happened to this lady. And moving on. All right, let's go to gifts, which is, we got room for. Here we go. Okay. No member shall accept a gift or personal benefit conducted directly or indirectly. Gifts received as an incident of protocol or social obligation that normally accompany responsibility of the elected office. Now, you're going to ask me, what does that mean? Services provided without compensation by persons volunteering their time. So the key word here is performance of duties. If it's a gift that is connected directly or indirectly with your performance of your duties, it's probably okay. Now, gifts received, well, all right, now, sorry about this, Mr. Mayor. Here we go. So if you have lunch with a developer, for example, and he or she pays, I think that's okay. Sometimes you want to schmooze a developer on some land use matter, and that's okay. You may have spending rules. You don't want to conflict with those, but if they're okay you might pick up the bill the next time you want to schmooze him or her in a restaurant. But don't be seen with the developer too often. You don't want to have people think that you're bought and paid for. And then don't confuse developers with contractors who have bid on a tender. You can't talk to them at all. That's under your purchasing bylaw. And then you get invited to banquets. Well, I worked for a municipality as city solicitor years ago, and believe me, these banquets are not perks. They're always in the middle of a week. You get home at 11 o'clock. The chicken is not very good, and the speeches are kind of boring. So if somebody takes you to one of these, preferably a municipal matter, municipal thing, and pays for the bill, that's not a problem. Question? No. A suitable memento, this is the slide 13 that you have up, suitable memento of a function with nominal value honoring a member of the city. So don't refuse to take a mug, for example. Don't embarrass yourself. You can take things like that. Food, beverage, and/or admission fees provided by banquets, receptions, or similar events if the attendance is a result of protocol or social obligation consistent with the responsibility of the office. The person extending the invitation has done so infrequently, and that person or representative is in attendance. So don't take an expensive ticket if the donor is not in the room with you attending the thing. the use of a cottage for a week up north, forget it. That's too valuable. That's worth thousands of dollars, and you shouldn't ever take one of those. Now let's go to Rule 5, which is slide 14, I believe. Use of city property. Only use property for activities relevant to their role as members of council, not obtain any personal financial gain or advantage from the use of city property. Members may not use city resources for any type of political activity during the municipal election and at any other time, including promoting or opposing the candidacy of any person to elected office in any municipal, provincial, and federal campaign. So those are the rules, and I think they all make sense. I mean, some municipalities supply a cell phone. I mean, you use it probably more personally than you do as a councillor, but I'm not going to worry about that. Elections, it's important that an election be a level playing field. So you don't have any advantage because you're the incumbent running for re-election. You have to be fair. And okay, the next rule is Rule 6, harassment. Any behavior, conduct, or comment by a member that is directed at or is offensive to another person on the grounds of race, ancestry, place of origin, color, et cetera, which is reasonably perceived by the recipient as an intention to bully, harass, intimidate, or ridicule the recipient. So you're not going to break the Human Rights Act, and you're not going to make racial slurs and everything else. And as a councillor, I mean, as an integrity commissioner, I support vigorous debate by members of council. I've had many complaints where I've said, no, that's just, they were opposing you. For example, I had one lady who complained to me. She went to council asking to have the water fluoridated. And she said, they took after me after I spoke and and they harassed me, like a whole bunch of members of council. So I look at, of course, it was videoed, I could look at it. And she was just the nastiest person you'd ever want to hear. She was talking about, all you people have not read any of the reports on fluoridation, and you're all this and you're all that. And it was just a terrible thing. And so you give as good as you get. And I dismissed that complaint, needless to say. Now, speaking in council, you can cross the line, right? And we have a little experience in Amer with that, but you can have vigorous debate, and that's the point I want to make. Then let's see, Rule 7. I don't know if I haven't checked to see if you have any social media policies, but anyway. The bottom line for social media is treat it like any other form of communication. It's extensive because of the everybody's on the internet nowadays. But treat it like any. Don't tell lies, and don't hide your identity. Don't be a counselor on there doing things to benefit yourself without having your identity disclosed. Because I'll come down on you for that. Okay, how are we doing here? We're 45 minutes. Not too many questions, but I'm willing to take any. Social media. Okay, so let's now start on the complaints process. And I need, next slide, the role of the Integrity Commissioner. So, advisory, requests from members of council and local boards for advice respecting their obligations under the code of conduct applicable to the member. requests from members of council and of local boards for advice respecting their obligations under a procedural rule or policy of the municipality or a local board. That's the code picks up all of these requirements. Requests from members of council and of local boards for advice respecting their obligations under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So let's get to, all right, so the code contains a long list of duties, including investigating complaints under the code and applications under the MCIA. Slide includes only advisory duties, which are an advantage to you. Some codes have forms to fill out, others do not. The number one best practice is to require the complaints to be sent directly to the Integrity Commissioner. Yours has an option to send it to the CAO, and I disagree with that. If, for example, one counselor is complaining about another counselor and it goes to the CAO, he or she has a conflict. And so it should only come to the Integrity Commissioner and should not be disclosed to anyone until it goes to the Integrity Commissioner. And then he will deal with what is required once he receives a complaint. A complaint can be anonymous, but if the details of what the person is complaining about obviously identifies that person, the complainant, then there's no point in trying to keep it anonymous. The respondent is going to hear about who filed the complaint regardless. So I approve some complaints to be anonymous, and I disapprove other ones, which are obviously not going to be able to go through a detailed investigation without disclosing the identity. Because the respondent needs to know the case that's before him or her, and that's very important. Could I have slide 19 now? Integrity Commissioner shall undertake an initial review of the complaint that has been filed and shall determine whether the matter relates to non-compliance with the code or other corporate policy applying to members. The Integrity Commissioner shall have no power or jurisdiction to investigate or otherwise deal with the complaint if the complaint is not alleging a contravention of the code or other corporate policies applying to members. If the complaint relates to the following: criminal matter, Freedom of Information, Municipal Elections Act, then obviously he has to refuse to investigate the matter. Could I have the next slide? If the Integrity Commissioner is of the opinion that a complaint is frivolous or vexatious or is not made in good faith, or there are no grounds or insufficient grounds for conducting an investigation, Integrity Commissioner may choose not to investigate, or if already commenced, may terminate any investigation or may dispose of the complaint in a summary manner. So that's most of the complaints I received are they're confusion or they're politically motivated. Many of them, 50% at least, and I dismiss them summarily if they don't have a proper basis for a complaint. Now, if the person who receives my dismissal makes it, I make it confidential. If the person who receives my dismissal makes it public, then I do a report to council, and because all you're going to hear about in the media is the complaint from the argument from the respondent from the complainant that he shouldn't have been dismissed. So I do a report to council to give my reasons for dismissing the complaint. Um, when I deal with my complaint, I send it to the clerk on the day, at least within the deadline, so that it can make it as part of the agenda. And it's obviously becomes public when all my reports must be public. I can't do any in-camera reports. So a report that I write, the clerk keeps confidential until the agenda is issued. And that's usually a week before the council meeting date. And I am very careful to make sure that any respondent is served with my report, because you don't want to be called by the press and you don't know anything about it. So I'm very careful about that. I give an advance copy to the counselor. Counselors can argue in open or closed council against the report from the Integrity Commissioner recommending sanctions. They can't vote on it, but they can argue against it or for it. Prior to March 1st, the counselor was required to leave the meeting if he or she had a pecuniary conflict. Now, these are just reports where I'm recommending sanctions. If I do a report which doesn't recommend a sanction, then the counselor doesn't need to speak. Now, I can also recommend, this is the penalties that I can add. And you know, if you read the Municipal Act, that Section 223, that I can impose, I can recommend sanctions. I can't impose sanctions. I can recommend sanctions of up to 90 days salary suspension, or I can do a reprimand, which is authorized. The other penalties that I can recommend, I can also recommend that a counselor or committee member be removed from the chair or membership on a committee. Some codes include a requirement to return of a gift or repay the value. The council has no power to require this or even require an apology. You have no power to do it. The council does not have that power. But I get around that by, I say I make a rule, a finding that I'll say something like, do an apology, make an apology, a draft apology for me. I usually ask for a draft of it. Read it in open council, and if you don't, I'll recommend 30 days salary or whatever. So that's one of the ways I get around it. But council has to be careful. You can certainly remove somebody from a committee, majority of council, but council cannot say, do an apology, or they cannot say, hang on. So the council can't require an apology, can't require the return of a gift, council has no power to do that, but I get around it with my powers under the Municipal Act. Now, I don't know, there's a few things that are a problem with your code with me, but quite frankly, I can accept all of it. It's very expensive for me to do a code of conduct. I have a tried and true code that I could give to the clerk, and he can discuss it with council. If you wish, I could do that. But there are some things that, like going to complaints going to the integrity, to the CEO, CAO, and there's a couple of other minor things in there. There's no requirement for advance notice to the respondent counselor. Some codes require the integrity commissioner to ask a second time for input before he imposes sanctions. So that's that. Any questions at this point? Okay. Now we're on, let's go through the next, this is now we're talking about the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, and that's where I'm going now. And let me make a preliminary comment as an old municipal person. There's nothing wrong with declaring a conflict. Don't be embarrassed about that. The purpose of this legislation is to attract people on council to run for council who have businesses, who have homes, who have various interests in the municipality. And all you have to do is declare a conflict if anything comes up. But it's not embarrassing, and you should, out of an abundance of caution, declare a conflict, whatever you think you should. It's expected that you'll have conflicts because you live in the municipality. Now, it's an application for an investigation, which I received when somebody claims that a council member has a conflict. And I treat it similar to the complaint under the code, but there's a major difference. The investigation is not for the purpose of making a recommendation to council. Council is only entitled to a report of my findings and a notice that I'm looking into it. But I decide whether to apply to court without any input from council. So I have no power to impose anything, and neither does council, but because I have to go to court, and I don't deal with court very often. The essence of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act is I guess three things you must do: declare a pecuniary interest, describe its nature, and do not attempt to influence the vote. And I've had all sorts of councillors get in trouble by being confused about trying to influence the vote. Taking a councillor, one extreme case I took to court, and the councillor was removed from council. I have a few others that I did, but I'm not going to get into them. They're very expensive, and I try to avoid them wherever possible. I have some problems with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. You or your family must have a pecuniary interest, but the family is defined without siblings. So theoretically, your sister could appear before council and have a multi-million-dollar contract, decide she could speak to council or speak to her counselor, and there really isn't any legal requirement that they conflict the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. But I would take some action. I would do something if your sister came to council with something that would be a conflict, but she's not defined in the act, which should be changed. But I've never found the way to get that changed. There are personal conflicts which become very complicated. And I've written critical reports about them, but I've never imposed a sanction on a non-pecuniary conflict. You know, I've had so many examples of this. Well, let me see if I have made any notes of the. Well, for example, you're sitting on a charity, on the board of a charity, and you know there's usually in municipalities around Christmas or after New Year talk about grants to these charities. And if you're on council, you know you really shouldn't. You don't have a pecuniary conflict because you don't get paid, but you shouldn't be arguing for your charity when you're a member of the charity. That's just not right. I had there's one councillor, which is very embarrassing for council, but this councillor just didn't declare a conflict, didn't do anything. He just he argued on behalf of his wife, who was the chairman of a charity, and you know, there's nothing that it's a personal conflict because there's no payment of salary, but it's just wrong, and I would be critical of that and find some way to get after you. Now, any questions at this point? Now, another problem with a personal conflict, often your procedural bylaws will say that if you don't vote, then your vote is counted as negative. And that's, you know, if you do it on a personal conflict, there's no reason under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act that you had to do it. So most procedural bylaws will count you as a negative vote. So the only way to avoid that is just don't turn up at the meeting for that portion of it. Okay, so that's it. I'm done, and I hope I can answer some questions for council.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Swayze. Does council have any questions?
Mr. Swayze, just taking advantage of having you here for this meeting, could I ask you if you have any opinion on intake fees for integrity commissioner complaints, just for our purposes?
You mean paying a fee to file a complaint?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes, that's opposed by the ombudsman, and it's opposed by me. It's just an unnecessary requirement that does interfere with people filing complaints. Believe me, I will dismiss complaints that have no validity, and I'll do it in 5 minutes, and I just sent a confidential email. So there's not going to be many invalid complaints, and they come to me and they're completely confidential. So nobody knows about them. But I don't agree with that.
Thank you. I appreciate knowing that.
I don't even think an affidavit is required when you file a complaint, and there's a number of things that should be just left to the discretion of the integrity commissioner.
Anyone else? Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Swayze. That's
Well, thank you,
Very
members of
informative.
council, for having me, and I hope, certainly, you can always send me an email and ask any questions that you want. I'll be happy to respond to those. Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'll withdraw then.
Thank you very much. We have a resolution concerning the appointment of an integrity commissioner next, right?
Yes, so the resolution would be that the presentation from Robert J. Swayze,
Mover and seconder, Counselor Chapman and Counselor Van Rays. All right. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So do we have another resolution dealing with this at this time?
no, that's all.
That's all? Okay.
In this next presentation, they're
Okay.
not here yet. so-
We run to 5.2. We have Mr. Robin Trepanier, Business Development Manager of Aqua. He's on, I believe he's online somewhere.
I believe they're supposed to be attending in person, and they're going
Could they
to
be attending in person? All right.
at 7:30.
All right, so we're going to move that. I thought they were online, excuse me. So we jump down to 5.3, the Director of Operations, Annual Report on Lagoon Wastewater Treatment and Collection System, and do we have a resolution for that?
The resolution reads that Report Operations 15-24 entitled Annual Report 2023 Lagoons Water Treatment and Collection System be received for information.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Rahi and Councilor Oslach. Rob?
Thank you, Worship. This report is being shared with council tonight as the annual report that is submitted to the MECP. It provides an overview of the composition of our system, the flows, the system performance, and any actions taken by the town or the contracted operator, Aqua. As you can see from the report, the system is functioning very well, save and except for some typical seasonal fluctuations that we see with this type of system. And of course, council is aware we're taking steps to address these seasonal fluctuations even in a proactive sort of manner. This is one of those annual reports, Your Worship, that it takes me about 3 or 4 phone calls back and forth to Aqua to make sure I have the terminology correct. There's a lot of impact between dissolved oxygen and temperature and pH and how they affect our ammonia and nitrite limits. So I would be happy to review anything easy with the council, but if council has a burning desire to know any of that technical stuff, I would suggest that we could speak with the Aqua representatives when they're here. Megan, when she is an invaluable resource, we certainly appreciate all of the Aqua operators for sure, but it's the process and compliance team that really does a great job for the town. We're not afraid to pick up the phone and call them, and even though they only provide wastewater services for us, we sometimes use their expertise on the water side as well. So they'll be in to present this as well.
Okay, thank you. Any? Seeing none, all those in favor? Is carried, thank you. Item 6 is the consent agenda.
Yes, the resolution reads that the April 17th, 2024 consent agenda be received for information, and that the included recommendations within the staff reports be adopted, and that council approves the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on April 3rd, 2024.
You have a mover and seconder, Councilor Desrosiers, and Deputy Mayor Barber. Any comments on any of those? Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Worship. Regarding 611, like to acknowledge the good work on staff's part to take the questions of this particular program and try and get a resolution to it for the comfort of the people that are inquiring about the service and for the communication for those that do not want to be communicated with. Good work. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, all those in favor? And carried, thank you. 7 action items, 7.1, housekeeping amendment to the zoning bylaw.
We don't have Heather James yet. You might want to just move to the next section.
I think we're waiting for Heather James to come for that one, so we'll go to 7.2, which is the manager of Parks and Recreation, dealing with the Elmer Pool maintenance improvements. Resolution?
The resolution reads that Report Recreation 06-24 entitled Elmer Pool Maintenance Improvements be received for information, and that council directs staff to proceed with the maintenance improvements implementation strategy as discussed in the staff report.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Van Raes and Councillor Chapman. And Susie, I believe you're giving this report, right?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Council. So tonight, I'm following up on a report presented to Council February 7th by the Director of Operations, where Council supported the implementation strategies presented within that report. And I'm here to report staff are prepared to proceed with the required improvements outlined in the report. So these reports are intended to produce targeted improvements over the coming years to extend the life of the facility, as well as provide a safe facility for patrons, as well as our partners delivering programs at the pool. So the purpose of this report is to inform Council of the intended maintenance improvements planned for the Elmer Pool in the spring of 2024, and seek approval to proceed with this work, provided acquisition of items and services aligned with the town's procurement policy. So option 1 is outlined in the pool condition assessment report that was presented in February, included localized concrete repairs, filtration grate modifications, ladder replacement, which we'll discuss a little further in the report, we're proposing to defer to 2025, removal of the 3-meter dive stand, and replacement of the lifeguard chairs. Staff have met and had plenty of conversations with our partners at the YWCA to discuss suitable products to install in the pool. So with regard to painting, marine-based paint will be applied to the basin of the lap pool, at minimum bordering the surface of the pool to just be beneath the anticipated fill line. If budget and staff time permit, painting can be extended, but knowing that there's intended larger scale repairs coming or hopefully proposed in 2025, we're looking to make the pool as user-friendly as possible this summer, and also be cognizant of the resource we're using. There are some required items that we do need to paint. There's contrasting bands required around each of the drains, as well as the black discs that are to be painted and installed at the deepest points of the pool. So those will be painted. With regard to concrete repairs, there's areas of spalling and cracking in the lap pool, mostly in the deep end back wall of the pool, that will be repaired internally. There's some Pargin finish coating that's also to be repaired. Overall, the lap pool was noted to be in good condition, and as is the pool deck. So there'll be some caulking of some joints. Those will all be inspected and repaired if they're noticed to be worn or cracked. The dive tank and baby pool are in good shape, not recommended for repair at this time. So when we talk about the filtration grate modifications, there's 4 main drains located in the lap pool, and one in the main drain of the baby pool. Modifications will be made to those filtration grates so that they're compliant. They're VGBA compliant, so they have an anti-entrapment cover installed. We're anticipating more extensive repairs required to these drains, so this replacement is cost-effective and will certainly increase safety dramatically in the pool for this season. So with the installation of those modified drain covers, we'll require touch-up painting and the required contrasting bands painted around those drains, so those will be installed. As identified in the pool assessment condition report, they touched on the 3-meter dive stand as well. So that stand is to be decommissioned as per the report. It was deemed to be unsafe due to corrosion, the overall age of the stand, and some missing connecting hardware. Staff have received a reasonable quote to have the dive stand removed and are prepared to proceed with this work with Council's blessing. So moving on to the replacement of the guard chairs, there's 2 guard chairs located in the lap pool and 1 located in the dive tank pool that currently do not meet regulations and are in immediate need for replacement due to the poor condition of the aged metal chairs. We've had some very productive conversations with the Y to find a suitable product that will be appropriate for both the lifeguards and meet the infrastructure, pair nicely with the infrastructure of the pool without requiring major modification. The next item that I spoke to earlier that we're recommending for deferral are the ladder replacements. It was noted in the report that these are in poor condition. However, upon inspection of the ladders there, staff feel that there are some repairs that could be potentially attempted in the interim, quite possibly just to reduce the pinch points, the gaps that were noted between the ladders and the concrete wall. It's staff's opinion that we want to make sure we do this right. We've got a number of quotes that vary from quite reasonable to quite unreasonable. So we want to make sure if it is proposed to install a vinyl liner next year, that we have ladders that pair nicely with that liner and that will be appropriate. I'd hate to recommend buying ladders this year that we can't use next. So that's rationale for that. And when we speak of the financial impact, as reported in the Director of Operations report submitted in February, we feel that the anticipated repairs and maintenance part of the project will come in under about $10,000, and these can be managed within the existing operating budget. The only exception are the guard chairs, which would be capitalized and taken as a capital budget amendment from the approximate $70,000 that's remaining in the Parks and Recreation Reserve in 2024. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. Council? Councilor Rahi.
Just a comment and a question through you, Mr. Mayor. I can understand a lot of everything here except for the 3 chairs for $20,000. That's over $6,600 per chair. I think that is absolutely ridiculous. I know that those need to be redone. I've seen them since I can remember. I don't think that's my opinion. I would like to see the type of chairs and maybe there's another option to make it a little bit more affordable, but you better have AC in a cab for 20 grand, so.
Through your worship to Councillor Rahe, thank you for that question. And I was anticipating a hefty price tag on the chairs as well. The systems we were initially hoping to install would have been a portable system, which are well north of this price. I did search for through a number of local reputable companies, and this style chair actually that we landed on was one of the most affordable options that were out there. It's stainless, has a swivel chair that's appropriate for the guards. It's the appropriate height. It can be installed. This will have a lifespan well past likely the lifespan of the current pool, and be a good return on investment. And I'm happy to supply information on the items that I've sought so far. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Follow-up question, did you happen to talk to any local manufacturers or welding places as far as building one or building them? The 20,000, I don't know what they're made. Stainless is expensive, but there's not that much in it. It doesn't seem right to me.
Thank you. Through your worship to the councillor. We didn't actually, there were some items that we sourced local pool supply companies for, but the chairs required for a commercial pool do have different requirements. So we did actually look through suppliers of commercial aquatic products. These are standard items that you'd see in municipal outdoor pools that are good quality. I think we can see our staff and have been very resourceful with the current chairs, and a lot of some of the pieces are welded and repaired in-house. But we want to make sure that the items that we're providing at the pool and installing in the pool are the safest and most efficient for the staff who are working there. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. Regarding the 3-meter dive stand removal, do you have any idea on how much the diving board is used other than for jumping purposes?
Thank you, through your worship, to Deputy Mayor Barber. Thank you for the question. I don't actually have data on that. I was hoping to come see this 3-meter dive stand and have a dive team and whatnot. I think there's lots of legend and history in that 3-meter dive stand. But I don't have current data, to be honest. That would be something our partners at the YWCA could certainly look into. I am aware this past season, due to the condition, it was not used.
What's the challenge, what's the challenge with jumping off, just the depth that people would go if they're just going in feet first, when they change their minds, when they get up there?
Going in feet first is always, sorry, through you, Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Barber, the going in feet first is always the ideal option. With a 3-meter dive stand, it's not the jumping down part that is the option, it's the climbing up part. The stand itself, the integrity of the stand and the stair treads heading up are problematic.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Councillor Chapman.
Through you, Your Worship, I just want to say I'm so happy that the repairs are happening and that we are going to improve the quality of the pool so that our residents can use it safely. And as far as the dive chairs go, it's important that you look at the safety of our guards and of the residents using the pool. And if it costs $20,000 to create that and there is no other way, then it is what it is. As soon as you become a custom item, which commercial pools are, the price goes up. And if you're looking for someone local to make it, there must be extreme standards for it to meet. And is there an inspector that would be able to inspect it and make sure that we qualify for that standard?
Okay.
Thank you, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Chapman, rather, sorry. Southwestern Public Health would be our governing body, as would, Regulation 565, which would govern pools. So those would be our regulations. But yes, there would be specific specifications that would be required.
Okay. Follow-up question, Councillor Ryan?
So just through you, Mr. Mayor, just in general, I understand what you're saying. Councilor Chapman, I understand how things are built and they have to be certified, but what's there is angle iron and metal. So it's just a steel platform. So I understand that it's very important for everybody to be safe, but what's there has worked for 30 years, and now we have to spend $20,000 on 3 chairs is what I'm saying is ridiculous. That's what I'm saying. I understand how things are built and everything has to be safe, and I do agree that we should improve things, but what's there is working. $20,000 could be spent on something way more important at that pool, in my opinion.
Councillor Chapman.
Through you, Your Worship, I think it was that the chairs no longer meet the required standards. So that's why we're replacing the chairs, is they no longer meet the standards that are expected.
Rob, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, if I may, Your Worship, I have been privy to where we've, in my previous experience, where there was sort of a homemade attachment that the work staff would use. It did have to be fully certified by an engineer because it was a WSIB compliance thing. So this would follow that same thing. Remember, we have a guard chair that's elevated, and we also have people jumping off of a chair. So while those ones that are there are maybe still working, and I would suggest that we're really only using at the start of the season for a checkbox to say, yes, we have a chair. I don't know that they're actually used. We've got complaints from the parents that are there that they don't want to see their kids using that chair. It's a tetanus shot waiting to happen. The YMCA was very clear. We might be using those chairs now for a checkbox, but if you install new chairs, and if something should happen, that's the first thing you're going to see from a WSIB or any type of a claim is, did you have something there that was sort of certified and licensed to be there? And if you're in a situation where you've made something homemade that hadn't gotten certified, you could be in some trouble. I did see the other quotes that Susie had for the chairs, and they were substantially more. I had the same sticker shock as you did, Counselor Rahi, and then when we got down to this price, I felt a little better, but I was shocked at the price of these. I think they do have a bit of a market on them as well, although all the bids were fairly competitive, or all the quotes were fairly competitive, if that helps at all.
One more. Right.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I totally understand, and I do get that. It's still, to me, is a lot of money. I wasn't trying to say that we shouldn't do it because I don't care about people's safety and that. That's not what I meant at all. I'm not saying that I'm gonna weld one up in my shop at home. It's just a lot of money in my head for the chairs. That's all I was trying to get it to everybody. I'm not saying that I'm gonna go whip one up and hope people are gonna jump off of it and save lives. That's not what I was getting at all. It's a lot of money for 3 chairs. That's essentially what I'm trying to say.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, right? Yeah, I agree that you look at the cost of 3 chairs for $20,000, it seems like a lot, but I think staff has done due diligence in this case, and I think, as Councillor Chapman has said, that, we need to look at the safety factors as well. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the, it's carried, thank you. Go back to, I think Robin Trepanier has appeared. So welcome, Robin. And you can move to the podium with the microphone over there. We'll give you a few minutes to get dealing with the aqua. Sorry, do we have a question?
Can I perhaps just request a brief recess just to allow our guests to kind of get acquainted and for us to use the bathroom?
I think that's a great idea. I was going to suggest that suggestion. We'll take a brief recess. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. Next item on the agenda is 5.2. Robin Trepanier, Business Development Manager of Aqua, a presentation on the Elmer and Aqua partnership. It's all yours.
Okay, so can everybody hear me? Ooh. So I thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, and Mr. Johnson and Michelle for everyone inviting us here this evening, for the opportunity to be one-on-one with you and explain some of our services. My name is Robin Trepanier, and I am the Business Development Manager for the Southwest region of Aqua, as well as Essex region down in Essex County. And I've been in that role for a couple of years. And prior to that, I was in operations for a decade with Aqua in the Amherstburg area in wastewater. And tonight, I bring with me, I've got a couple of people that were unable to attend last minute with us. That's on my slide there. So Dale LeBritton was unable to attend this evening, and Megan Garber was unable to attend. So in Megan's place, I have brought our PCT from this region. This is Matt Belding, and he takes care of all of the reporting and things that we have to send to the ministry as a result of the sampling and activities that go on. And Vitaly, that is on my list, Vitaly Talashov is our Senior Ops Manager for Aqua as well in this whole little cluster. So he takes care of not just your community, but a few other communities in the region here as well. So they're here tonight to help answer questions that you have as I finish my presentation, if that's okay. So I'm going to start. I promise I won't take too long. I know that delegations like to be kept to about 10, 15 minutes or so. So Aqua itself is an agency that was actually put together as a result of the water disaster that took place in Walkerton over 30 years ago. We actually just celebrated our 30th anniversary last fall. So across the province, we're about 1,000 employees servicing over 160 communities. And you'll see some of those communities in my presentation, but lots of people across the province, not just here in this area. So basically, as the slide indicates, there's about 5.2 million or more Ontarians that place their trust in us, that are drinking water and utilizing services that we are providing to those communities. We're the largest water and wastewater operator in Canada and ultimately in the province of Ontario. As an organization, it's kind of a hub and spoke organization that we operate. So what we do is basically in this region, we have a central office in St. Thomas, and we have some management staff and administrative staff there. And then we have clusters outside of that pool together and service several communities. So the team that Vitaly has here, he's going to take care of Malahide, the contract that we have there. We have a little bit of a contract with County of Elgin, same with Southold, you guys here in Elmer, and I think, and Thames Centers, yes. And then we have another little cluster that takes care of Haldimand and Norfolk. And we have the same towards in West Elgin that takes care of the Tri-County Water Plant out at the lake in West Lauren, and then takes care of everything that we have from there over to Brights Grove. So a bunch of little communities, including Southwest Middlesex, Brook Alvingston, Enniskillen, Warwick, Petrolia. And so there's quite a lot going on across the whole region. And with that model, we're able to share staff. So Megan Garber, that would have been here tonight, she is our SPC manager, so she's a safety and process and compliance manager. So we share her across all of those clients. So most of those little clusters have their own PCT, like we have here with Matt, and they'll have their own senior ops manager, like we have. But across the board, it's a lot of shared services administratively as well. So that helps for us to be able to extend savings onto our clients, that we don't have all of that in every single one of those clusters. And one of the other services on my list there is our emergency response team. So I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that. It's a team called OERT, so it's the Ontario Emergency Relief Team. And we've got about 3 trailers, I think, or maybe, I guess it's telling me 5. I've seen 3 of them myself across the province that are, they're basically already stocked with parts. And they can go into a community if there are issues. So if their pipes freeze in the wintertime or there's a disaster of some kind, they can go in and a team of people are trained at different spots across the province. So they all come together and they would go into that community and help that community resolve what issues that they have. And in terms of infrastructure, we're managing quite a bit across the province, actually. So outside of the teams that I've just spoken about, Aqua has a lot of other services that we offer through our corporate office in Mississauga. So we have teams of engineers and process specialists and IT people that can offer other services to our clients. Anything from asset management, we do optimization with energy and with our process as well through all those teams. Our engineering department can come in and assist with doing environmental assessments, CDM plans, all kinds of different things like that. So there's lots of other things that we do. The other team that's on the ground is our specialty conveyance services team, and they would come out to communities and maybe go through and do inspections and repairs on all of your fire hydrants, flow testing, all kinds of different things like that they can do. So. Like I mentioned, IT, we get into some SCADA. I know lots of municipalities will contract that out. Even we contract it out sometimes, but we do have a SCADA team that can come in and make adjustments and make things better for everybody in terms of SCADA, do updating, things like that. Training, we have a full training department through our corporate office where we do a lot of our own training with our operators. Our operators have to maintain licenses on an ongoing basis, so the training is just a crucial part of that. Some of us, it's about 40 hours a year that we have to get in order to maintain our licenses, I think every 3 years. So by us having our own training department, it saves expenses as well because we can do it ourselves. In many of those cases, we will also extend invites on to our clients if they have operators in their municipality that need training as well. We often can send invites out to them to attend the training as well. Financial and capital planning is something that we offer through our corporate offices as well, and funding application support with many of our municipal clients that are always having to fill out lots of forms to try to get funding. So there's lots of different services that we offer. So the Southwest region itself, these are the clients that we have. The last part there are basically some of our non-municipal, say, organizations that we have within this particular region of the province. And in terms of our teams, the pictures that you've got on there, the picture up top is the group that's from this area directly. The group that's on the bottom photo is actually our Norfolk and Haldimand staff. So there's a lot of people. There's 62 staff across this particular region in total. We operate 46 facilities. You can see, 17 water, 25 wastewater, and 4 storm, and that's growing. We're taking on some more storm facilities as well. I think with the CLI ECA regulations from the ministry, some of those things are going to become a little bit more part of what we do for municipalities as well. There's a little bit more going on there now. So as you can see, Aylmer is pretty much surrounded by staff and options that Aqua has to offer here. So by using Aqua, it assists the municipalities in terms of dealing with all of the regulations. We can represent you guys in terms of ministry inspections, any kind of visit that the government's going to send to us. We can basically accompany them and help answer questions and provide documentation and everything that they request. We offer 5 days a week operations on site, and on call after that and on holidays. Our regular routine at most of your facilities, they'll go through weekly, sometimes multiple times depending on the facility, and inspect all of the process equipment and make sure that everything's working properly, and sampling every week to maintain compliance and make sure everything's the way it's supposed to be. With all of that information from your equipment as well as our sampling, it allows us to analyze all that data. And, we can capture that for our reporting that we do to the ministry as well as our reporting that we send back to you, so we know what's going on. And a major part of our weekly operations is the sampling at facilities as well. The other thing we do for many of our clients is we procure chemicals. So our organization, being as large as it is across the province, we buy lots of things in bulk. So we're able to extend those savings onto our clients. And I think for the most part, the chemical aspect of things is what comes into play there when we're buying aluminum sulfate for the entire, our entire client base across the province. It allows us to get things a little bit less than if you were out bidding on that stuff yourself. And in terms of the MECP inspections, in this area, Matt and Megan would be very involved in putting together all of those reports and then getting ready for the inspections. These are mostly drinking water situations here on this particular side, but with drinking water, they get a rating, percentage rating. With you guys, with your wastewater end of things, it hasn't historically happened as often as the drinking water inspections, but you guys did have one last fall. And everything was great. They came back fairly recently, I think. They were a while getting the report back to us, but they don't put it in a percentage form, but there was really no outstanding issues. So it was a good inspection. So in terms of the agreement between the town and Aqua, it is a 5-year term that started on January 1st, 21, and will end December 31st in 2025. Most of our agreements are set up like that. When we start the initial term, they have successive rollover terms. It can be whatever you like. So I wasn't part of that negotiation. I wasn't in this role at that time. So obviously you guys agreed on successive 5-year terms to roll over after that. And everything's always negotiable at that point. If you wanted to extend it longer than that, or if you wanted to shorten it, those things are all negotiable at that time when we roll over. So at the end of each of those terms, we're able to, change things if we need to or if you want to. So your agreement is what we call a cost plus agreement. We offer cost plus agreements and we offer fixed price agreements. With you guys, the cost plus is obviously the way that you decided to go. So what that means is that at the end of the year, you guys may get money back or you may end up owing us money based on estimates that were established the year prior between our operations staff and Rob. So we'll go through and kind of put together what we feel the budget needs to look like for the next year. And everybody kind of has a quick chat about it, and we kind of move forward and see how things fall by the end of the year. So over the last few years, we've seen a lot of things change throughout the year in terms of chemical prices and just the price of everything. So I know we've had a lot of clients that have had reconciliations that meant for them that they were going to have to pay a little bit more money, mostly in regards to chemical expenses and things like that. So the next year we have a chance to kind of reevaluate that and adjust it so that it's not such a shortfall at the end of the year. The other part of the cost plus agreements are there is a management fee that is involved in that. So aside from the estimate that is established in the fall, from the first term, we establish a management fee that basically covers a lot of our other overhead costs, and we basically set that up so that it increases annually based on CPI. So that would be the only increase during that term that would hit that management fee. Usually our management fee operates at about it's usually about 12%, but that's how the cost plus contract actually works. So in terms of the scope of work in the agreement, the water distribution part is not supposed to be on there. I apologize for that. That here we are just doing the wastewater treatment and the collection system. So the other aspect of our contracts is capital and major maintenance. So usually in the fall, we have a date in our contract, I think with yours, it's on the 30th of September. So Vitaly and his team and the operations staff would put together a rolling 5 to 6 year plan for anything that they feel is necessary within the system to maintain everything, and they would provide that to Rob every year. And then you guys have to decide whether you're gonna do everything on that list or what your budget allows and what things are gonna be prioritized. So, and everything would be approved by you guys first, before anything like that would move forward. And then we spend the rest of the year trying to achieve those goals. So within the facilities here in Elmer, there's 4 main pumping stations here. You are probably aware of them, listed there. And then we have the OPC pumping station, and that we kind of share with Malahide a little bit. And the wastewater lagoon system that everything kind of feeds into, and the wastewater filtration aspect of things with the sand filters. And so as far as the sand filters and the lagoon situation, I know that over the last couple of years, back to 21, I believe, we've been involved with Rob doing work in regards to that lagoon system and the future of that lagoon system. So May 21st and 21 was the proposal for the evaluation of the aeration and sludge accumulation at the lagoons. I know I was actually on virtually with Yalda on July 13th and 22 when she presented to you the roadmap that she'd put together based on all of that. And then we went ahead and assisted you guys with the RFP preparation for putting that project out. And I'm not really completely aware of how all of that's coming along. I know that part of that was a new blower installation, and that some of that has been already done successfully. But outside of that, Rob would have to update you on everything else that's going on with specifics with the contractor out there. And the other little piece in terms of any additional services that would have been outside of the contract is we added a little bit for some extra sampling at the Elgin Innovation Center at Rob's request in regards to your bylaw and them meeting the bylaw. So we've added that into our monthly stops and sampling schedule. So, and this was my screen about the emergency relief team. So it just kind of shows you where we're kind of located across the province and ready for any of those emergencies. And the other thing that I always like to say is, our staff, a lot of them are local, and they're all part of your communities. And some of them have lived their whole lives here as well. And then we have others that have moved into the area because of the job. And many of them, I find, are just really, really passionate about what they do. And water and wastewater has just kind of become part of what they are and what they offer to all of us. So many of them are involved in our communities socially and definitely economically as well as everyone else. So I'm very proud of all of the staff at the agency and what they bring to the table. We also have some public outreach that we do in many of our communities. I don't think that we've done a lot here in Elmer specifically. We have a few vehicles that we take out to communities. One of them is down in the bottom left, and it is our Aqua water buggy. And basically it's a trailer about the size of a pop-up camper that we can bring out and hook up to town water. And it's got water taps and drinking water bottle refill taps on it on both sides. And we take it out to lots of events. We like to take it out to events that our clients are involved in putting together and that kind of thing. But anything in the community, if we have an opening, we've got 4 of those buggies across the province. And I like to keep one very busy between the Southwest region. We do have to share it up as high as the Georgian Highlands area, so we don't get it every single time, but we do get it a lot. We also have another station that is an upright station that's just a bottle refill tap, and it goes on the hitch of the back of our trucks. So if we don't have a buggy available, we do have the on-tap station that we can bring out to your event usually as well. We have one within the region that stays in the region. And the other vehicle there in the upper left and some of the other pictures is our educational trailer. And we actually put that together in the Essex County area quite a few years ago, but I like to take it out to children's water festivals as well as public open houses that municipalities like to have at their facilities. And it's a great way to basically provide an outdoor classroom in a school setting, in a festival setting, in a municipal open house setting, all those kinds of things. Doesn't seem to matter who's in the trailer, if it's a child or if it's an adult. They've all got really great questions, and they don't come in that trailer without leaving and not learning a whole lot. So we talk to them about the water treatment process. We talk to them about wastewater treatment. I usually have samples of wastewater, right down to dry sludge, in bottles for them to look at. And we have a flat screen TV at the back of it that I show bug movies from a microscope. We've got a video cam that we can hook up to our microscope and take pictures of the bugs in the wastewater. And that's always pretty exciting for the kids and the adults to see all that and realize that all of this dirty water is being cleaned by those bugs. So we also then talk to them a lot about what they flush down the toilet, of which is a problem that most municipalities have, no matter whether you have a treatment facility, a full-fledged freestanding treatment facility, or a lagoon system. Everybody's got issues with what people flush. So we go through a bit of an experiment with them, and we have lots of samples of things, and I have lots of pictures of pumps that are pulled out of the ground with lots of things hanging off of them that shouldn't have been flushed down the toilet, and talking about the expense that's incurred by a municipality and ultimately taxpayers by us having to pull those pumps out of the ground all the time. So the public outreach vehicles are great if you're looking to educate your community. And I'd be more than happy to come and do something like that in your community anytime. We will be at the Huron-Elgin Children's Water Festival in Pinafore Park that first full week in May with both water buggy and the educational trailer. So we've been invited to attend that again, so that's great. So in terms of Aqua, as opposed to anyone, we've got lots of other companies across the province that do the same kinds of things that we do and come out and operate just the same, as well as many municipalities that operate things on their own, as you guys do in some respects. So the difference between that and Aqua can be varied. We've been in the business, like I said, for over 30 years, and we like to kind of tout ourselves as providing all kinds of different services, so a full range of technical and advisory services. We have over 160 municipal partners at this point in time. And again, our shared services model across kind of brings lots of savings to the table. And it eliminates the risk to a lot of municipalities in terms of all the regulation and all that kind of stuff when we're there operating like that. You can see as far as compliance, we have lots of great outcomes from all of our compliance reporting and our sampling and operations routines. Our safety record is pretty admirable. We like to tout that we are pretty on top of asset management across the board. The other aspect of us being, I know the municipalities themselves are also bound by collective agreements. We as well are, but because we are considered an essential service, in a situation where that was an issue, it wouldn't be an issue with Aqua being here because our management team would come in and operate because of the fact that it's an essential service. So, like I said, as far as our people, I am very proud of the team of people that I work with. Lots and lots of great people that are very passionate about what they do, and very conscientious about everything that they undertake. So I think that's kind of it for tonight. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions for myself.
All right, thank you, Robin. Council, any questions? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Robin, for your presentation.
You're very welcome.
I just have a quick question about the water buddy and the educational trailer. Is there a fee involved to have that come to the?
Not to our clients.
It's, okay, we might be in touch.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor, Barbara, you had your hand up, I think.
Yes, I did. Thank you, Worship. To Robin, on behalf of the people of the town of Elmer, thank you to all of the people in Aqua for everything that you do, both on the potable and on the wastewater side. The expertise that you bring to the table and in support of our staff, we really appreciate and we need it. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I will extend that to everyone.
Councillor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I might have two questions, just depending how the first one's answered. So just to make sure that I understand Aqua's role accurately, are you involved with both the testing and processing of drinking water and wastewater, or is it just wastewater?
Here, we just do the wastewater. You guys take care of your own drinking water system.
Okay.
So, but as far as you're receiving water, right, from the Huron-Elgin system. So the Huron-Elgin system itself, we actually operate. So the Port Stanley water plant, the Grand Bend water plant that feeds the city of London. So, I mean, your water is probably coming more from Port Stanley way, but.
Do you want to add to that, Rob? Sure.
Yeah, because we're a client of Aqua's, I don't know if some of the members of council may recall, they actually supported us in the water. At one point, we were in between water managers, and they came in for 6 months and acted as our overall responsible operator, so we could continue to provide that service as well, even though we hadn't hired them for water. So having Aqua in our wastewater, like I say, they helps us in our water as well.
Go ahead.
I'm still going to ask the follow-up question, even, 'cause I just want to make sure I ask the right person. So if she's here now, I'd rather ask her now, if it is applicable. So I've had questions from residents regarding the chemical properties in our water system. So is there somewhere where residents can go to access results about their drinking water? Thank you.
Probably we can get, through Megan and Matt, we can probably have, if you're interested in seeing lab results, things like that, they probably could provide some of those to the town, and probably some of them are available online anyway.
Rob, you?
Yes, certainly, Your Worship, all the water annual reports for us come here to council. But if you really want to do a deep dive into the composition, go to the regional water supplies annual water reports. Is that correct, Vitaly? Yeah, they have a lot of the detail because they're actually manufacturing that water, if you will. So they've got a lot more chemical analysis on the water than we have in distribution.
Okay. Anyone else? Again, thank you very much then, Robin, for that.
Thank you very much for allowing us to kind of present tonight. We appreciate that.
So next item is 5.3 from the Director of Operations. No, it isn't. 7.1, sorry. It's Manager of Planning and Development. Right. Housekeeping amendment to the zoning bylaw. We have a resolution.
Yes, that report Plan 12-24, housekeeping amendment to the zoning bylaw, consideration to proceed, request be received for information, and that council provides preliminary input on the proposed amendment and authorizes the manager of planning and development to proceed with a statutory public meeting in order to solicit public consultation and bring back.
Okay, mover and seconder. Councilor Desrosiers. Councilor Raw. Heather.
Thank you, Your Worship. The report you have before you this evening is essentially just kind of providing you with a high-level summary of the fact it's time to do a housekeeping amendment to our zoning bylaw. Just to provide you with a bit of a refresher, the last housekeeping amendment that was done to our zoning bylaw here at the town was in 2021. The province, through the Ontario Planning Act, does require us, municipality, to take a look at its zoning bylaw every 3 years to determine if an amendment is required. Within a 3-year time period, generally an amendment to a zoning bylaw is required. And as you can see, what we need the amendment to facilitate for Elmer is essentially, we need it to basically kind of reflect current provincial planning policies that have changed in those last few years, as well as make some updates to some of our text and mapping in the zone. So what I have listed in the report for what I'm looking at for this proposed housekeeping amendment is to update the additional residential unit requirements to permit 2 additional residential units on a lot. If you recall, Bill 23 made changes in that municipalities are to allow up to 3 units on a lot on residentially zoned properties as of right. Here in Elmer, for the past year, we've been allowing them as of right because of that change. It's just, this is something we just need to catch up with the zoning bylaw. As well as, I'm also looking at increasing the parking space requirements for apartment buildings as well as additional residential units. Also looking at updating site triangle requirements to add fence to the list of prohibited obstructions. As well, I'm looking at adding a definition and regulations for mobile food outlets, also known as food trucks. Adding regulations for shipping containers, because we currently have none in the zoning bylaw. And lastly, looking at correcting text and mapping errors. So essentially tonight, I'm here to have a discussion with council to find out essentially if you have any additional amendment requests to add into this housekeeping amendment, and to also ask for your permission to proceed with a housekeeping amendment. If I am granted that permission this evening, the next steps would be to send out the notice of public meeting and publish it in the Elmer Express, hold the statutory public meeting, which I am tentatively looking at May 15th, 2024, and requesting for council then to make a decision at the June 5th council meeting, and then proceeding on with all the notice requirements. In terms of costs, essentially there is cost to notify in the newspaper. However, that has already been allocated in my budget. So in conclusion, so this report is just providing you with like a brief summary of the proposed housekeeping amendment to the zoning bylaw. If there's any additional requests that council would like to have added to this housekeeping amendment, this is an opportunity tonight to make such requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Council. Councillor Rahi.
Through you, Mr. Merritt. I like that you are making it, or that we're suggesting that we need more parking spaces for apartment buildings. It's definitely something that needs to happen. I really enjoy food trucks. That's just a note. And then what happens with the people that have shipping containers on their property if we change the rules? Do they get grandfathered in, or do they have to, or they then have to meet the standards, I guess? Thank you.
Through you, your worship, to Councillor Rahi. Generally, anytime we do any amendments to the zoning bylaw, it's for any new uses, anyone who's putting a new, for instance, a new container on the property. As always, we always try to, whenever we do amendments to the zoning bylaw and there's existing circumstances or issues within a municipality, we always try to work with a property owner to try to bring it into compliance, try to see if there's an opportunity to correct the situation as much as possible.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. All those in favor? As carried. Thank you. I think the next one is 7.3.
Yes.
7.3 for the CAO report on non-resident user fees for the Elmer Pool resolution.
That report CAO 22-24 respecting non-resident user fee be received for information, and that council provide public notice of their intention to adopt a user fee on May 1st, 2024.
And seconder. Councillor Chapman and Councillor Van Raes. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is just an update report. There has been some indication that potential movement on this may occur, so we want to allow for that opportunity. We also do want council to direct staff to proceed to give public notice, because public notice is important before a fee. So that would allow us to make a decision on May 1st if something doesn't change. Either way, there will be a report before council on May 1st. The one for the user fee is already drafted and ready to go. We just held off on putting it on this agenda. So, and then there'll be certainly either way, the bigger discussion on May 1st when we have that, or whatever report we have before us, I should say. And with that, I'll try to answer any questions that council might have.
Council. So May 1st being the next council meeting, correct? So we have discussing that more thoroughly on May the 1st. Right. Any other comments? Questions? Seeing none? Did you have a question?
Yes.
Councilor Rahi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Andy, so this is just, can you explain what this is actually for? Like, when is the public?
Yeah, so staff met with the YWCA, and we also got a letter from the YWCA. We got a letter from the Township of Malahide, and we know that they met together. This is giving them more time to see if something changes. And then already had the staff report on implementation of the fee ready for council's consideration. We just haven't put it on this agenda. We talked to the YWCA, and they said that they're okay with us waiting till May 1st to kind of make a final decision on this. I know I keep on coming back to council and saying it's a final decision, but I don't want to be the one who rescues success from the jaws of victory, or I don't know, jaws of defeat. Or if there is a potential for it to work out, we want to give the opportunity, but we are getting very close to the time where we have to make a decision here.
Councilor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Part direction from council at our February 21st meeting was to gather comparisons from neighboring municipalities who allegedly implement non-resident fees. Additionally, Councillor Oslach, I believe, inquired if there was a way to engage and poll constituents. I just wanted to know if that information is planning on being included at the May 1st meeting.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there was verbal discussion, but that specific direction wasn't actually included in the motion. But certainly, yeah, there is a comparison of other municipalities, including those. There wasn't an opportunity to poll. We had that kind of lengthy discussion there, and it was, with the timelines at the time, it wasn't proceeded with.
So it'll be available on May the 1st, you're saying?
Yeah.
Anything else? Seeing none. All those in favor? It's carried. 7.4, Director of Financial Services, quarterly.
Yes, that report, Finance 09-24, entitled Quarterly Financial Summary Report, be received for information.
Right. Mover and seconder, Councilor Oslach, Councilor Rahi. Heather.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you and to members of council, I didn't have anything substantive to add to this report financially. It's fairly straightforward and early in the year. That said, we did pay out the majority of the grants and donations for Q1 to help the community partners with their operations. So you'll see those amounts being posted with approval of the budget. We're also awaiting for some invoices for reversing entries for year end from audit. So you'll see some of those expenses as negative at this point. We have done journal entries. We haven't done journal entries yet to do transfers to our reserves. We wait till Q2 or Q3 for that to avoid any cash flow challenges in our operating account. I did want to add that council can expect these reports to continue to be reported quarterly. Further to this report, though, I did have a request from council inquiry regarding me to explain 4 GL accounts in detail. One of them was association fees, another one was travel expenses, another one was training, and the other one was tuition workshops. So association fees, travel expenses, and tuition and workshops are basically held budgets in all departments. The training expenses budget line item is held specifically in volunteer fire. So while it looks like these are 4 GL accounts, it's actually 48 GL accounts that encompass all of these association fees and travel and tuition expenses. So Rob's team holds a budget, our team holds a budget, Owen and I share it. Heather's team holds a budget for certain dues and association fees. So I wanted to explain those in detail. The association fees for fees and dues are held with government, general admin, fire, police, transportation, water, parks, building, recreation, planning and development, as I mentioned. They're paid as necessary expenses to employ designated staff that sometimes are included in their, that are related to statutory memberships for the majority of their specific requirements as registered designated individuals. So some of the departments we have for water, sewer, police, fire, and municipal administration have basically designated individuals, like Rob mentioned about the ORO, those types of things that have CPD requirements that need to happen every year. So the benefits of those designated individuals come through the associations that they're a part of. Basically, they have access to publications on working papers, various discussions on trends that are happening in the industry, access to best practices. So something like ORFA for the Parks and Recs and facilities has access to best practices, like during a time where with COVID, where everything was shutting down, opening up, we don't have the expertise in-house to do the policy writing. They're able to grab those policies from those sites in order to, pivot when we needed to. Some of the other benefits for these associations include professional development, accreditation programs, discounted training opportunities, and just key policy updates that come through from legislation that's ever-changing. Some of the examples of the association fees that we pay for are for fire, for example, Fire Marshals, Public Safety Council, Elgin County Mutual Aid, Fire Prevention Officer dues, NAFI, which is National Association of Fire Investigators, the Fire Chiefs Association. We have OMTRA requirements for Ontario Municipal Tax and Revenue, AMTCO, AMO, which is required for CCBF administration, Chamber of Commerce for Elmer, OACP, which is police service for chiefs of police, OAPSB, which is dues for PSB board. We have Ontario Good Roads Association for our operators. We also have our Water Association dues, as Aqua kind of touched on some of that stuff. So while, the budgets are split across from all departments, some of them are only $500, some of them are $1,000, depending on how much the cost is. So basically, all of those have been through council approval through the budget process. Of course, you also reimburse for professional designations in some cases. They're a part of the compensation agreement for people to maintain their professional designations, such as having a CBO on staff, OSET, CPA, and RPP. So though each department has those budgeted costs for that. So in addition, each one of those designations, as I said, has CPD requirements from their designation. So Heather, for example, has to do, 20 hours a year of verifiable experience. I have to do 40. Rob has to do another 20. So we try to choose courses that are free or that are, put on by the CRA in my instance, or that are put on by the Registered Professional Planning Association. Obviously there is small cost to some of those courses. So the majority of those courses are then gathered through the tuition fees and workshops GL account. So that this also encompasses safety hub training, CPR training, health and safety training, job-specific hazards, WMIS, equipment-specific training, like for snowplow operation and that sort of thing. Council also just reviewed again, and prior council also had approved the tuition reimbursement program, which is a part of the HR policy that you updated, or that you approved updates for. So some of our staff are taking tuition or university courses that are reimbursed in some cases from the budgets to the individual. And then finally, the training, and there's travel expenses also that are kind of a little more geared to the workshops or the people that need to go pay for tolls or parking or that sort of thing if they attend an in-person workshop. The last category that I wanted to explain is the training expenses, and this is fire specific, so the $28,000 is for that budget. And it's used entirely by the fire department, the volunteer fire department. So I'll give you an example of the CMEC drill that the chief and the volunteers had organized with Elgin County, where we did a mock exercise with a CO2 leak. And they went through the emergency we all went through the emergency response control group plans, and, you know, the chief of police was there, Rob was there, myself, Andy, the mayor was there, and basically went through the documentation while the volunteer firefighters were out doing an exercise at IPGC looking for a body out in the grass. At the same time, we were using the radios and all that kind of stuff. So that type of training also would be covered in the training expenses for volunteer fire. Overall, the majority of the departments haven't started their training yet. For finance, we're in year end still, so we haven't had a chance to even look at what our training requirement timelines are going to be. But usually we do Q2 and Q3 is our big training times, up to the beginning of Q4. Rob likes to hit the shoulder season, as he mentioned to me today about, between the leaves falling and the snow flying with his team, to try to make sure that he's taking time during that time to get his staff up and trained. And basically by Q4, the beginning of Q4, the majority of these expenses are gone. Some of the association dues aren't, they have different fiscal year ends, so some associations don't have their dues until January or July. Some of them have been already posted. So I hope that explains, for council's benefit, a little more detail on those 4 GL accounts. If council has any more questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. You weren't kidding when you said 48 GL accounts, right? Questions from council? Councilor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So that was actually me who asked those questions, because I don't know about the rest of council, but when reviewing the GL accounts, there's a broad terminology for several accounts that kind of, I don't understand what is in those accounts, or what that essentially means. So Heather just did a great job of explaining. However, that was a lot of information. I'm definitely not going to retain any of that. I'll probably have to go back and watch the video several times. So part of it, part of my request to staff was to get that information, whether it be written or have a verbal, one-on-one conversation, to better understand the financial categories and the expenses that are outlined within them. So I think what I would like to request from council is permission to have that conversation with the Director of Finance, one-on-one. Staff did mention that perhaps a further report could come to council. I don't know if council wishes to have that. It might just be a me thing. So I fully support if that's what council would like to do. I feel like it's a lot of work for staff to prepare a report, rather than to just have a conversation with me one-on-one and kind of go over the GL accounts. So again, I think I don't know if I have to make a notice or a motion to request that from council, or permission from council.
What would your motion, how would you word your motion?
I guess it would be permission from council to have that conversation with the Director of Finance and allow her that time to educate me.
Well, I think that that information is useful information for all of council, and rather than have a one-on-one with the Director of Finance, I think it probably would be appropriate to have all of council present at perhaps a Finance Committee meeting in which that information was brought out, so that we all hear the same thing at the same time, and bring it into a Finance Committee meeting. How does council feel about that particular idea? Right. So I don't think we need a motion for that. We're just going to call a finance meeting with that kind of agenda on it, right? Do you have a question?
Just a comment that I think that particular question is deserving of a input from, or output to all of the members of council, and the Finance Committee would be the logical place to do that.
So if we leave it up to the Chair of Finance Committee to call a meeting and include that information on the agenda, is that, that work?
Certainly happen.
Councilor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment and a question. Relieved to hear that it's not just me. That's good. Also, when would be the like, when would this meeting take place? Like, are we looking, like, into the summer? Would it be relatively soon? Like, how, like, I think it's a lot of information for our treasurer to prepare, so I just want to make sure she has enough.
Well, and you know how significant that information is. I think we can probably, a month or two, give them enough time to do.
Yep,
So,
that's great.
I believe it's the intent of the Finance Committee to
Yes.
begin to discuss the upcoming budget in the summer.
okay, so that'd be fine, yeah. So the chair of the Finance Committee will let people know when we would have that meeting. Okay. Seeing no further discussion on this, 7.4, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. 7.5, Director of Financial Service Asset Management Plan Resolution.
That report finance 07-24 respecting the asset management plan be received for information, and that council approve the updated asset management plan for 2024 and direct staff to provide periodic updates.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Rahi, Councillor Chapman. Heather.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you and to members of council, staff have updated the asset management plan specifically for the CRV analysis, which is current replacement value analysis required for the OSIF funding. So I had to pull some of the components of the review up for the deadline of April 15th, which was Monday, which we submitted our file for. We're not done yet. We kind of have, we did task a lot of these current replacement value updates to hit Connor and Leah, actually, in Rob's department for machinery and vehicles, which they did a great job, and I appreciate them looking at different municipalities' recent purchases, just doing quick analysis on some of the equipment that we needed current replacement value updates on. So that's the majority of this update for council's viewing tonight. We're continuously making ongoing updates to this document. So replacement values are just one part of it. We're also updating, like Terry did a lot of the heavy lifting last year with the roads and the sewer and the water and all that. And Rob gave a lot of information through Aqua's analysis for the capital infrastructure. So the other part of this is the 10-year plan has been pulled into this document for, the current replacement value deadlines for the ministry. So the next stage of this is we have to go through and look at the conditions and risks and update the service level. So there's some service level analysis and activity happening in different departments. And basically, the conditions and risks will come with as the fire hydrants get flushed and as all these maintenance items happen, we're able to do some of those condition assessments as the operators are out in the street looking at stuff. But this will take longer to update. So I don't want council to think that this is just a document that we throw on a shelf. It's part of our year end because our 2023 actuals are in here. And it's also part of our capital planning. And it's also going to be updated through the inspections and risk assessment analysis. So that's all I have right now. It's majority housekeeping items, but there will be tasks out of this that come to the Finance Committee, which I have highlighted there with regards to, how much are we going to put away? How much debt are we going to talk about issuing if we need to? How much are we going to propose to fund from the levy every year in order to make sure that we are funding our asset management plan, which is the requirement of the ministry as of July 1st, 2025. So overall, Elmer is in a good spot. We're in a better spot than the majority of our neighbors. We don't have the high debt capacity or the high ARL issues that some of our neighbors have. So they don't have room to issue debt. We do. So I wanted to summarize this for council tonight so that we could get it uploaded to the website and there for the OSIF team to review.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that we seem to be ahead of our neighbors, but does the province really think that municipalities are going to meet their deadline on January the 20th or whatever it is in 2025? Because that's a pile of money.
I'm
That
not
was a
sure.
question.
I'm not sure. We will have a plan in place. Whether we can fund it or not is going to be another story, but we will have a plan. We will discuss the challenges. We will have a plan in place to show our gap, and we're going to do our best to show, the real numbers.
Right, but then- And we are doing very well, as you say, but it's just a scary number. All right. Any questions from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. 7.6, I believe, Director of Legislative Service concerning the IT Service Management Resolution.
That report clerk 08-24 regarding procurement of information technology service management be received for information, and that council approve entering into a 2-year agreement for information technology service management with Zuling Technologies under the same terms and conditions as those received by the municipalities of West Elgin, Dunton, Dunwich, Southold, and Malahide.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Desrosiers, Councilor Rahi. Owen.
Yes, so happy to bring this report before council. It is proposing a significant change in our IT service management by engaging Zuling Technologies. This service has been provided to the town of Elmer by Reliable Networks for almost 2 decades now. Some council members may know Steve from Reliable Networks. The reason for the change is simply that Reliable Networks has asked to step back from providing the service and has offered to transition to any provider which the town would have selected. So we consulted with our partners, our local municipalities. Recently in 2022, the Township of Malahide previously was the joint service provider of IT services for West Elgin, Dunton, Dunwich, and Southold. Due to a retirement, they RFP'd for that service, and Zuling Technology was the successful bidder. So I've spoken with those municipalities. They're very happy with the service being provided by Zuling Technologies. I was able to meet with the Zuling Technologies, and I think they would be a great provider for Elmer and offer a number of synergies between us and the other municipalities. We share a lot of services, we share a lot of technologies, a lot of infrastructure are the same, and I believe that Zuling Technology will be able to service Elmer into the future. So we are recommending a sole source here, kind of due to the unique alignment of having the same provider as our neighboring municipalities, and kind of the unique requirements of a municipal environment, and having a provider that provides the same service to 4 of our neighboring municipalities. The recommendation is for a 2-year agreement with Zuling Technologies, and we have an offer from our current provider to help us with the transition to the new provider. To give council some context on the estimated contract value, it's around $27,000 per year. And that's all for my report.
Questions? I do have one. The IT services deals primarily with the hardware, correct?
Yes, so it's server management, cybersecurity, management of our cloud-based products like Microsoft 365. They also provide help desk services when like I need assistance with problems or when other staff members need assistance directly. They additionally procure IT products for us and kind of facilitate that procurement.
Okay, thank you. Just to give you some kind of comparison, the County of Elgin has IT services provided by Stronghold, I believe. And the Stronghold bill for the County of Elgin is $62,000 a month. So it's a jaw dropper. But they're a larger organization, but this is certainly very, very economical. Other questions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. Town of Lincoln resolution. Do we have a resolution for that? Yeah.
The council endorse and provide a letter of support to the relevant Government of Ontario and Government of Canada ministers for the following resolution. Town of Lincoln Council resolution regarding urgent need to increase funding to libraries and museums.
Councillor Roselach. Just a minute, I think I need a mover and a seconder first, right? Mover and a seconder, Councillor Roselach, and seconder, Councillor Rahi, then Councillor Roselach. Right?
Yes, Your Worship, I'd like to support this resolution.
Good. Anyone else? Very well. Okay, all those in favor? Carried, thank you. 7.8, CAO FCM membership resolution.
That report CAO 21-24 respecting Federation of Canadian Municipalities membership be received as information.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Desrosiers and Councillor Rahi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have nothing further to add what's beyond written in the report to council. Thank you.
Okay. Comments from council? Question? Councillor Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. As far as membership into FCM, at this particular time, I don't see any tactful reason to join. There are no programs within their radar that would benefit the town of Aylmer. Not to say that there may be at another time. And secondly, that we don't have a specific dollar amount budgeted in the for this particular purpose at this time.
Any other comments? Councillor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just in response to the comments of Deputy Mayor Barber, I feel like his comments are very valid. The only thing that I would counter is that his assessment that there is no programs applicable to Aylmer, all the more reason for us to be a part of the association, because one of the benefits, of the many benefits of our Aylmer's involvement within FCM is having that advocacy for concerns that are directly related to Aylmer. So it's taking our concerns, and hopefully those concerns are mutually shared amongst other municipalities within Canada, but having Aylmer's concerns and issues and problems advocated for at the FCM level. So optimistically that there is grants and there is advantageous opportunities for Aylmer to take part of. So that's, for me, that's all the more reason for us to be a part of this association.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councillor Rahi?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a question. If we were to go ahead with it, where would the extra funds come from? It says that there's $1,500 allocated for conference attendance. Is that being used? Or how does that work?
I think some of that the treasurer. Yeah.
Heather, go ahead.
For council's budget, specifically, you have $500 in meals, travel expenses, which includes meals. So, like the lunches before or the dinners before, like tonight before the integrity commissioner come out of that budget. And then you have $1,000 for tuition fees and workshops and training, which the integrity commissioner costs, and I don't know what that is for the training, but those types of training will come out of that budget. So I believe your budget's probably done by now, specifically for council.
Any other? Councillor Desrosiers.
So just to follow up from Councillor Rahi's question then, if that money is not, or those budget or GL accounts aren't sufficient enough to fulfill the FCM membership, there's nowhere else to get that cost or to get that money from? Like there's no other account like that is applicable to?
Council would have the opportunity to do, a motion to amend, go over budget, run the budget over, or whatever you want, if that's council's wish. And then it would be taken out of the overall surplus at year end.
Yes, go ahead.
Just to follow up, not to the Director of Finance, but to council as a whole then, there is other opportunities out there to recover the costs associated for small municipalities. So if the reason for opposition of this motion is due to financial reasons, I would like that to be made very clear so that I can take that to these other opportunities to potentially support the financial cost of it.
Okay, and I think you are making that clear right now, yes. So,
But would it be able to be implemented into whatever the resolution is of this notice of motion?
so how would you like to amend that?
Well, if it's opposed, just, are we able to clarify exactly why it is opposed?
I'm not sure how one would word the amendment to that reason. First of all, we haven't had a vote on whether it's opposed or not.
Exactly,
And
but-
so, once we go through that, I suppose we could make another motion saying that the reason for it was this or that, if that's,
Or can we request like a document or something, just something as tangible proof to back up the opposition?
requesting a document from
It'd be
the
the corporation, I guess, or the council.
corporation of the town development. I don't know, I guess you're saying you need that kind of thing in order to request help from other agencies that would provide that funding.
Yeah, so I think I guess my next question to council would be, if that is the reason for opposition, if I was able to secure the funds from an outside organization to cover the cost of membership, would I then have endorsement from this council for that position? I think that's my next question.
Yeah, I know, I guess we'll have to ask council at that time, that happens. Right now, the amendment, the motion only deals with the FCM as information. It doesn't deal with anything else other than saying we've received the report about FCM as information. That's all it says. Councilor Rahi first and then Councilor Chapman.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just getting a little bit confused. It's normal. Is this not just a report for information, and the next 7.9 is the motion, right?
The next one is a motion to support Councilor Desrosiers. It has nothing to do with
The report.
the report with FCM in terms of accepting it, in terms of, what's the word, in terms of engaging it, or in terms of being part of it, yeah. Does that help you, Claire?
It's not your fault, it's mine. What I'm asking is could the motion that she made, could we amend it to saying that we support, in my opinion, support her going, but we don't want to pay for it?
Well, that would be the next motion in order to support Councilor Desrosiers, but are you asking to have the motion include that we join FCM? Is that what you're asking? Is that you would like this motion to include joining FCM?
So what we're on right now, the FCM membership, I guess, can I ask Councilor Rogier what her opinion as far as the benefits to someone being there?
I think she's already said that, but she could add to it if she wishes.
I can have the points I've listed here if you would like me to respond.
No, well, I think we're fine with the points that you have listed. I guess the issue is, do we want to add an amendment to this motion, which is just for information, that the town of Elmer join, is that the right word? Join FCM, which if you want to make an amendment to that, then we would do that.
No, I think it's on 7.9.
Yep. No, that's not in 7.9.
Carry on.
7.9 has nothing to do with joining FCM. 7.9 is only supporting Councilor Desrosiers in being a committee member of FCM.
Oh, gotcha.
Here. Councillor Chapman, you're next, I think.
Through you, Your Worship. So can I clarify exactly what FCM is? Because when I'm reading this, do I understand correctly that they are distributor of federal grants?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll try my best to answer. They are a representation body, and they do good work. They're involved with the federal government, so there has been instances like the Green Building Initiative, Green Building Fund, where Green Municipal Fund, sorry, where they are given a portion of money from the federal government in order to administer the grant program. Now, they were one of the people that recently advocated for the large, significant federal announcements that you might have heard the last couple weeks with the federal budget coming in for more housing funding for municipalities. So they advocated for that. They're not expected to be the grant administering body for that. So there is still the Green Municipal Fund that you can access. There are other grant opportunities. They don't require membership to participate in them. But and we did certainly participate previously through our membership vis-a-vis the county in a grant opportunity to get software for asset management before. So. They kind of do everything, and advocacy, education is some of it, but it's usually on broader federal issues. But certainly the federal issue has become broader every day, and as the provinces try to draw them into issues like healthcare and housing.
Okay, did you want to follow that up from?
Yes, please. So just to clarify, you do not have to be a member to receive grants from them. They're just the distributor of them. And the purpose of them is very similar to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, and they advocate for municipalities for different things that we're looking for. So how many members are there? And of those members, how many are rural? Because if there aren't enough representation from a rural area, then participation in it is not as impactful. If there's only a few rural representation, then when the big vote comes out, it doesn't have an impact. So if there was more rural, then it would, but how many are there? Is there any statistics on who are a member of this FCM?
Catherine's shaking her hand, so go ahead. Sorry, Councillor Rosier.
I actually had, I should have brought it. I don't know. I forgot I did it. But if you go onto their website, you can see their list of board of directors and table officers and committee members. And I'm honestly, besides, I think the smallest community was perhaps Chatham, Kent. And then there was one in the Owen Sound area. That was their smallest. But the majority of representation was from urban areas such as London, Sarnia, so many Toronto ones, so many. This was part of the reason for engaging specifically me, was they are looking for FCM's mandate. They're supposed to be the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, not the Federation of Canadian Cities, and they're finding that is the majority of their representation. So they're really that's part of their, I guess, mandate or goal for the coming year, is to really shift the focus back to municipalities. And this information was given to me directly from a past president and the board of directors. So hence why they're really trying to engage these rural municipalities, because there is not an even balance right now as far as what is being communicated as far as needs go for municipalities. It's really just being the needs of cities, and it's not healthy. So I hope that answers your question, but all the information is actually on their website. I'm sorry I didn't bring it, but yes, that's it.
I think that, if I may interrupt, according to Bing, Google, whichever one, I'm not sure, there are 2,000 members, 2,000 communities that belong to FCM in Canada. 40% of our members have fewer than 1,000 residents, so 40%, according to those, so that kind of answers. The issue here is really, do we want to belong or not? So I would welcome a motion, an amendment rather, to this motion to belong to FCM. If not, we'll get on with voting the original motion. Do you want to amend that? Make an amendment to belong to FCM? Do we have a seconder?
Am I allowed to second?
It's Rosier, sure you can. So we will vote on the amendment first separately. Okay, so but let's discuss the amendment for a minute and then we will vote on it. Councillor Chapman.
I just have another question. So if there are already 40% that are rural, and this doesn't fit in our budget, maybe it's something that we should look into for our next budget. That's what was my question, is do we have rural representation? And you said 40% are under 10,000, so there is
Under
rural.
1,000. Under one?
Under 1,000, so there is rural representation.
Councillor Van Raes.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm not saying that there isn't benefit. I just don't know enough about this to see what benefit there is for Elmer. Looking at the staff report, looking at information that was provided before, Elgin County obviously pulled out for a reason. We didn't put it in our budget, so I'm supportive of, I'm not saying I'm against it, but I'm supportive of looking at it at our next budget year. The concern I have is we've spent a decent amount of money on things that I think could have been better situated or better suited for investing in our community. And I'd like a little bit more information as to how this is actually going to benefit Elmer before we vote on moving forward with this or looking at it in the next budget year. Because, again, I just don't have enough information to see how, if we can already access grants. I'm not saying that I'm against it, but I would like more information before I support it.
I'm going to turn it over to Catherine Desrosiers in a minute. Anyone else before I give it to her? Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to also clarify, I think there is a miscommunication as far as a list of members and so a list of members is people that just pay the fee and belong. They're not on the board of directors, they're not a table officer, they're not a committee member, they just pay the fee and they're a member of the association. They do not have a vote, they do not have a voice at the table besides, I mean, they could always send like a notice of motion with, you know, like we've done before, like we've supported tonight, right, and address it to them. But as far as like actually being involved in the meetings and advocating for things, they really don't. So if you go to the board of directors and the list of table officers and list, there's not, like, they're all cities, like City of Toronto, Region of Peel, City of London, County of Wellington, Town of Collingwood, City of Ottawa. It's all cities. So that is, it's not that they're trying to recruit rural membership, they're trying to recruit rural representation at the table where these discussions are being had to advocate for municipalities.
Okay, thank you. I think we've argued this well enough. The amendment is to join FCM, basically, so I'll call the question on that. All those in favor? 1, 2. All opposed? I'm going to oppose. So it's defeated. So we still have the main motion, which is just accepting the FCM as information. I think we've discussed this enough, so I'll call the question on that as well. All those in favor? This is the main motion to accept the report on the FCM as information.
Okay.
So you know what you're voting on, right? All those in favor? Let's have the hands up again. That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much for that discussion. 7.9, the motion for Councillor Desrosiers to become a committee member endorsement. Is that still useful now that we're not joining FCM? Do you still want to go ahead with that?
Yes, I do, but am I able to make an amendment to request a document, like I said before, outlining the reasoning why?
Sure. If you want, you request a document from
Council?
as to why we're not. I don't know that staff, can we put something together like that? I think we basically was described in the discussion while we were having this, all right?
I know, but I can't present that to any other association for endorsement, so I would need something from the council as a whole stating that
All right, so-
it was not approved due to financial whatever, right?
So what would your motion state? What would it say?
I'd probably pass this over to the clerk. He's more rehearsed in things like this. So basically requesting a formal documentation stating the reason for council's non-approval, whatever, outlining council's non-approval.
I think we would rather than ask for a document is have council state that the reason, as a vote from council, state that the reason for not accepting FCM was monetary. Is that what you're after?
Can it be in a document, though?
I don't know.
Through you.
The document would be the motion.
Yeah, through you, the only thing that I'm unsure about is I don't think that you would, even if council did that and you were successful, I think you would be an individual representative, not representing the town of Elmer, because there's different categories of membership with FCM. One of them is the municipal membership, which council just turned down for 2024. So I don't know if you would, I don't know if you could still be nominated and go seek financing, but I don't know if it would be in your role as, I don't know if you'd be representing the town of Elmer. That would be the challenge, but.
Owen, you had something to add?
Yes, through the mayor and to Councilor Rosier, would it be adequate to, like, I regularly provide letters of notice regarding the decisions of council on other matters. I could certainly provide you that letter with some commentary on the discussion at council. Would that be adequate for your purposes? Because I could certainly do that outside of this motion. That wouldn't be a problem.
Thank you. So just to clarify, the reason why I would require it is because council apparently is not endorsing it due to the financial implication, correct? Just so I'm
not sure
clear,
that that's
correct?
correct. I think there are other reasons besides the financial implications. I heard people talking about the fact that it really had nothing much to offer us and that we would take another look at it next year. But perhaps the main reason was financial.
So,
But I think that the clerk could summarize the reasons in a letter.
so just to follow up then, so if I was able to have the financial cost covered, would I be able to have council endorsement at that point? Because at that point, there would be no cost to council. It would literally just be your endorsement. It would just be your word of endorsement. There's no cost associated. So would I be able to
That would
achieve
be
that?
I guess that would be up to council, wouldn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that I'd have to look to the treasurer, because if we're talking about a donation to the town, a charitable donation to the town to cover FCM membership would be, yeah, it would be, because otherwise I think you still have the decision of council's moved on, they defeated an amendment to join this year and make that expenditure. So I think otherwise you'd be left with council not being a member, and it would still be individual representation. It wouldn't be representation of the town.
Well, let's work through this. I think you've got what you've asked for, basically. You're going to get a letter that stipulates kind of why council turned this down. And if what Andy says is it's going to go, then you will have to deal with that on that basis, and council will have to deal with it on that basis, right?
I would
So
just like to know if it's
let's-
worth the effort, though, but I'm not going to go through the effort of going as a delegate, requesting this financial donation, whatever you will, and then to bring it back to council saying, yes, look, I've got this, it's covered, and council then still turn it down. So I guess I'm seeking clarification from council.
Well, only council can let you know that when
Well, I'm asking, so.
well, they're not going to let you know that right now because we don't have a formal vote on that. Councilor,
Just a comment through you, Mr. Mayor.
There.
I don't know why we wouldn't support something if there's no cost to it, but we could benefit today or later down the road.
No, let's leave that till later, shall we? Councilor Chapman.
So my question is, are we allowed to accept the charitable donation?
I think so, but I
I think I think the town would have to review the policy, but I believe that we would have to do it. I just want, we have it, I don't think we could write a receipt as a charity for it. It would have to be a donation, and then, I'm trying to work through a clerk's lens here, although we have our clerk. You could bring that forward back here again and notify council, and it would substantially advance the decision-making of council, so we could discuss this again? Rather than, yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I really think we've discussed this enough. I think that,
I just would like clarification. So the direction then is to go ahead, take this letter, seek this, and then have that conversation? Why wouldn't we just have that conversation now, so I know whether it's worth the time or not?
the conversation being,
If it was covered, if the cost was covered, would I have council's endorsement? We're not able to have that conversation now?
well, we can have the conversation, but it would mean nothing without a motion.
And that's fine, but are we able, I would like to have some type of direction as to what to do, right? So,
Just vote on the motion.
I think we vote, that would be direction, I guess, is you vote on 7.9, which you wanted to. Just vote on point 7.9, which is the motion is that, what is the motion?
So the motion reads, and it is moved by Councillor DeRosier and seconded by Councillor Oslich. Whereas the Federation of Canadian Municipalities represents the interests of the member municipalities on policy and program matters that fall within the federal jurisdiction, and whereas FCM committee members are comprised of elected municipal officials from all regions and sizes of communities to form a broad base of support and provide FCM with the united voice required to carry the municipal message to the federal government, and whereas FCM has expressed interest in engaging diverse representation for positions and providing municipalities a voice at the national level, and whereas FCM's annual general meeting, AGM, will be June 9th, 2024, followed by the election of the FCM Board of Directors and table officers. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Town of Elmer endorse Councillor Catherine DeRosier to stand for election on FCM's committee members, for FCM's committee members for the period starting June 2024 and ending June 2025.
All right, that's pretty clear. I think we've discussed it thoroughly. Did you want to have final word?
If it's opposed, if it's the majority opposed, the direction from council is regardless of financial cost, we don't support you doing this, just to be clear.
If the resolution fails?
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So to repeat that, I guess, simple, do we endorse Councillor DeRosier or any further comment? Councillor Chapman.
I'm sorry, I have one more question. So as a if it gets approved, and you are through your worship, you are a representative on the committee, are you taking your own voice or are you taking council's voice?
May I answer?
Sure.
I would say Elmer and council's voice, the town of Elmer council. So whatever your direction is to me as far as what Elmer requires, I will come to you for guidance, and that voice collectively of council and of Elmer will be carried to FCM. So I will also report back to council, however often council wishes, and the thing is, for me, this is a learning opportunity for me too, right? So whatever, as this goes, if we do it for a year and we find there's no benefit to this, then I'm not gonna keep doing it, right? But from what I've been told and what I've been mentored is that this is a good opportunity, not only for this council, but for this community. So I would like to give it a shot. Like I said, I have no problem relaying it back to council and reporting on a regular basis. So absolutely, I'll be voicing the concerns of Elmer Council as a whole.
Councillor Ben Reyes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just so I understand again. So we just voted not to join, but now we're voting on whether we send a representative.
Whether we endorse Councillor DeRosier making a bid for a committee seat. It's not automatic,
I get
right?
funding, yeah.
Endorsement is just endorsing you to run for the office. Councillor Oslach.
Your worship, could we have a recorded vote?
Anyone else? Very well. We will-
Okay. Counselor Rahe,
Yes.
Counselor Van Raes,
No.
Counselor Chapman,
Yes.
Counselor DeRosier,
Yes.
Counselor Oslach,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Barber,
No.
Mayor Cook.
No.
The motion is carried.
Okay, thank you very much. New business and matters of urgency. And reading of bylaws, we have a resolution for those.
The council gives 3 readings to and approves bylaw 31-24, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement between the Corporation of the Town of Elmer and VDM Tree Service for tree removal, stump removal, and tree trimming services. Bylaw 33-24 being the final tax levy bylaw, and bylaw 34-24 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at the regular council meeting held on April 3rd, 2024.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Desrosiers, Councilor Rahe. Any questions, discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor? It's carried. Inquiries by members. Councilor Chapman first.
I'm just going to flip to my notes here, sorry. I have 2 questions. One of them is, Rob, can you tell us what's happening for Earth Day?
Yes, through you, your worship, the Councillor Chapman, I believe it's been a tradition of council to plant a tree. I think it's a sycamore tree. Council is welcome to attend. I would probably defer to contact Owen, I think is the scheduling. Is that correct, Owen?
Yes, for council's information and the public's information, we'll be planting an American sycamore tree at Optimus Park at 10 a.m. on Monday, April 22nd. For Earth Day, we'll also be sharing any events by the local conservation authority, the library, or the county.
Second question.
Thank you. And my second question is, do we have any update on whether we're holding the bike rodeo and Touch a Truck? And if so, with Aqua's representation today, I would like to recommend that we include them.
Through your worship, the Councillor Chapman, yes, I received an invitation from a member of the Clerk's Department asking for participation from the Works Yard. So again, I would defer to Owen and his team, I think are working on something.
Yes, so we are working on that. I believe the tentative date is June 22nd. We met with the Elmer Police Service today about the event. And I actually made a note of that myself, that it would be good to invite Aqua too.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At our March 6th meeting of council, I inquired as to the development at 335 John Street South, as the observed development contradicted the site plan approved by council. Does staff have an update regarding development, or should council request a formal report for an update? I just would like some clarification on that.
Sure.
Yes, through your worship, through to Councillor DesRosiers, we have met with the developer and relayed some of the concerns that were brought up. They were working through some of the concerns on their end, and they were going to report back to us. I believe they were looking into some things with the setbacks and things like that, but they were told basically what we had discussed, that the additional units were not to proceed, and that there were several issues with the original site plan agreement.
Just to follow up then, Terry, like, I can't speak for council, obviously, but the reason why I brought the concern to council initially was because it's not really the additional units that I saw concerning. It was more so the parking dilemma. So has that situation been rectified, or is that still an ongoing dilemma?
Yes, through your worship to Councillor Desrosiers. That's a good question. That's exactly what we met with the developer about. So they're working with their team to see if there's any kind of remedy for that. For now, we've instructed that they need to be following the original site plan agreement, and that there are no ARUs permitted at this time. That's the additional units, but they are looking into possible remedies and potentially a site plan amendment.
Any other questions? Please, Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Worship. To Rob. Rob, you've been working on the bike route lately. Could you bring members of council up to speed on that project?
Certainly, Your Worship, through to Deputy Mayor Barber. Just for the other members of council, in 2014, as part of their Healthy Communities Initiative, the City of St. Thomas, working with all the Elgin municipalities, developed a master cycling plan, and some of the cycling route signs and share the road signs through Elmer are missing. So we're working to replace those signs. Deputy Mayor Barber and I also discussed at that time sort of the age of this report and the relevance of it, given that it was sort of done in 2014, and where the portions through Elmer still accurate or relevant. So this is something that council may wish to consider reviewing that plan and maybe updating our portions of that plan. It's not that long ago that road authorities were primarily concerned with moving cars. That was sort of all we worried about. Those times have since changed. And that was sort of the lens when we did that original plan. And Elgin County were more worried at that time about connectivity between communities and less in our communities. So I think we would have the expertise to do that review in-house for sure. I don't know, we'd have to go outside. I will say, though, it's a considerable amount of work with a lot of public engagement. So we, Deputy Mayor Barber asked me just to have that, bring that information forward to council as well. So if it's something that council looks to be doing, we do have the expertise, but we're kind of swamped right now as well. So it would be like an exercise maybe next year that council wish to look at it. We could maybe bring a report identifying all that's involved if this is something that council wished to have a look at.
Thank you. Any others? Statements, committee reports? Councillor Van Raes.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment that on May 9th, I think an email went out to council as well, but on May 9th, we're hosting the zone meeting for all chiefs of police and police service boards. So this will be at the East Elgin Community Complex at 9 o'clock. It's a good opportunity, if you're able to, come out and see the collaboration between all the police service and police service boards and how everybody works well together. So the fact that we're hosting it here is great too. So it'll also showcase our community complex. So if you're available, come out. There'll be breakfast and some speakers as well. Speaking about the police, I also, if I can, just want to give a quick update on Project Lifesaver, because the town did support that when I brought that forward. We've almost reached our goal of the funds that we're trying to achieve, and we're getting close to being able to purchase the equipment. There was actually in York Region a few days ago, they have Project Lifesaver, and there was a vulnerable person that was missing, and they actually have it. They used a helicopter, and we're able to track that person on a TTC bus and bring him home safely very quickly. So it was a really good outcome. There's video of it. I saw the video. The joy in the officer's voice actually makes you a little emotional when you hear the joy and the fact that we found him, and we found him that quick. So we're really looking forward to having this here in Elgin, and the support from the community has been amazing as well. So I want to thank everyone for that.
Else, Councillor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give a quick update to council regarding the Elgin Women's Leadership Conference that's happening in Elmer on April 27th. We have exceeded our registration goals and have well over 100 women registered to attend. Registration for the event closes Friday unless we meet our cap, which is 120, and we are very close. Elmer is very fortunate to be hosting an event of this magnitude, and I would like to extend my thanks to arena staff for their assistance in regard to planning and facilitating this event. And anyone who still needs to register, please visit Eventbrite in order to do so. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Barber?
Thank you, Worship. This week, from the 14th to the 20th, is National Volunteer Week. Elmer is very fortunate to have such a diverse group of volunteers doing all kinds of work through the community. Our hats off to them in whatever role that you play. And if you're not a volunteer at the present time, reach out to a group that may be of interest to you and get involved. Secondly, congratulations to Home Building for their grand opening Monday of this week. Quite a facility and certainly an enhancement from the previous property. Look forward to good things happening at Home Building.
Anyone else? Thank you very much. I have no report. Are there any notice of motion? And a closed meeting resolution.
That council moves into a meeting closed to the public at 9:13 PM to discuss the following matters. Director of Financial Services, Report Finance 0824, assessment appeal, and that consideration of these items is closed to the public pursuant to Section 239(2)E of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, as the subject matter pertains to litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals or affecting the municipality or local board.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Desrosiers, Councilor Rohi. All those in favor? That's carried. There'll be a brief recess. Thank you. Everyone, we have a motion coming out of close.
Yes, that council rise from meeting closed to the public at 9:32 PM and reports the following. That council received for information, Director of Finance report, Finance 08-24 respecting an assessment appeal, and that council provided direction to staff.
Mover and seconder, Council Rahi, Council Van Raes, all those in favor? It's carried. Motion to adjourn,
And that council do now adjourn at 9:32 PM.
moved by Council Chapman, second by Council Desrosiers. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good to see you.